Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Lots of Gravity, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Nathan had a little video on it. I listened to that.
Yo, Hammer's going to be feeling it. It was streaming till about 4 o'clock in the morning last night. Oh, and here he is.
You talking about me?
Hammer, you with us?
Oh,
Hey,
Hammer.
Nathan.
Yeah, he was streaming till really late. Like 4 in the morning, I think, his time.
Yeah, we heard you were the feeder boy. Way to feed a guy, Nathan.
My hearing's terrible. I think I've damaged my eardrum yesterday. So although you were all saying, oh, Nathan's just fiddling around with his computer. No, I wasn't. I was in agony. So when that storm hit, the pressure changed, and one of my eardrums I blew out years ago, and it just immediately filled up with pressure and just caused me excruciating pain. So I was sitting there listening to you talking, but there wasn't a great deal I could do about it. Anyway, fun. I'm sure you're all really concerned about the fact that I can't hear half of what you're saying.
That sounds terrible, Nathan. Sorry you're in pain.
That's all right.
No, I heard you were in the chat and helping our boy out yesterday with McToons. Not that he needs help, but it's always good to have a person that has the arguments down to a T. Typing info in for you.
I guess so. I mean, I was just listening and doing what I do whenever I chat in anybody's Flat Earth chat. It wasn't yesterday for me, it was earlier this morning. That's why I got confused.
All right, the time difference. Yeah, that is what you always do anyway. I got to give you that. When you're in chat, you're doing it there. But I don't think MC Toon. You see, you've got me saying MC Mick Toon. I don't think he gets it, or he does get it, and he's just being a troll. Because everything he's saying, he's taking it off of flat Earth. If you're using a theodolite, you're still working off of flat Earth.
Of course. Can't get elevation angle measurements from a curved surface.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
McToon just denied that it had anything to do with the elevation angle, that is, to do with the baseline. Oh, right, okay. So just denying all celestial navigation then, I see. Epic.
Yeah, exactly. How is he getting it off his curved Earth? He's not. He's getting it off the flat Earth that we dwell on.
Now I've just figured out what you were talking about. Right, so the hammer, yes, you were reading out some of the comments I read and putting them to tune on the spot. Excellent, yes. Now I've figured out what you're talking about. Is he there?
Yes, Hammer told us. He credited you with that.
I'm sure he knows this stuff anyway. It's just a prompt. When you're in the moment, you don't necessarily immediately think when someone says, oh, what's wrong with having a straight line to the horizon? Well, black swan, bitch. That's what's wrong with it. What's that you say? Refracted? Like you told us as a rebuttal. So that's what's wrong with it. But if you don't think of, in the spur of the moment, Black Swan, then you're not going to say it. But if I'm in there in the chat going, Black Swan.
Yeah, but that's something that shouldn't be forgotten. They go hand in hand.
It
Hammer,
doesn't, yeah,
what's
but you're
wrong with you?
talking about dealing with people. People are slippery little suckers. So they can rephrase things in such a way that it might pass by you, that you're talking about their straight line tangent point horizon that they claimed we couldn't see, can't be measured, and only exists in the maths. I mean, nobody's claiming physical geometry, planar walk. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. The rumpus.
Okay, so Nathan, we're in the moment. Line of sight.
Theirs is bent. It's not geometric. They just didn't. It's been 3 years, Neil. They just haven't figured out. It's done the same thing It's done the exact same thing with Element. So even though I've gone into this Edge instead of what do I normally use, Chrome, for some reason it still doesn't want to let me change where the output of the sound goes. But it did let me once. I'm sure of it. Sure, it let me. Can someone confirm that at some point they did hear sound from one of the videos in Element?
That was probably me. It might have been me hot micing.
No,
Is it
that's
me?
not what I'm asking. One of the times that I've used Element, I'm sure I managed to get a pass-through, which is to say I dedicated a line to your sound output. But for some reason, no matter which browser I use, it just does not want to let me change it to a virtual audio cable. It just goes to the default no matter what I do. Just try it once more. Why? I assume it's still set to what I set it to in the original. Yeah, I've said audio output, speakers, virtual audio, cable B. Where's it coming out? PC sound. Just very irritating. So it doesn't seem to make any difference what browser. They just haven't got that bit of Element sorted out yet. It'll only ever let you default to whatever the PC defaults are. Oh well.
Yeah, so that's not showing you options in the drop down.
Yeah, they're there. I've changed them. According
okay.
to Element, it's giving me sound from you on line B virtual audio. That's what it says. But it's not. It's just it doesn't do it. It just doesn't assign it to what it says.
Not to change the subject, but you didn't send the link to G Plus, right?
No, I didn't actually. Good job you reminded me. Okay, I've done that now. Oh no, that's the Element link. Okay, let's just get.
Everybody join Element. That's all. Sound is great here. Did I tell you?
Thanks, Neil.
I mean, everyone is signed up technically. I think maybe a couple of them haven't tried it yet, but everyone's got an account as far as I know. Apart from Quantum Eraser. He's waiting for Betty or something. I don't know.
Okay, I've done that now. I've posted the link. Well, either way, this is now not my fault that I can't pass the sound through.
Well, you'll figure it out. Are you in pain now still, Nathan?
Hell yeah, I've got one ear that's just full of pressure from when it was higher pressure. Well, now it's low pressure and it's bloody agony. Anyway, I was tempted to not have a show based on how painful it is, actually, Neil. I'm being dead serious.
I don't blame you.
Because I ruptured it once, flying all over the country, and one day my ear blew out on a plane. It's never been the same since. Every time I get a cold or anything, it just has a problem. Anyway,
Wait a second. How the hell does that happen? Wait. How does that happen? Because you were high in altitude, your eardrum blew out?
Basically, that's what happens. Burst my eardrum, yeah. Hey, John.
Morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Come on, with the dead air. Somebody say something, all right? Come on.
Something. Come on.
Oh, good, Neil. It's the warm-up. This is fine. Quantum Eraser dropped the links to whatever it was that I said I was going to put in the title of this show, and I haven't in the Master B chat.
I haven't seen anything. Let me double check.
Mortimer, got it.
I heard McToon claiming that eye level had nothing to do with surface level. That was interesting.
I should have trimmed that out too. Did you listen? I take it.
He's not paying attention, John. Or he is. He's deliberate. Sounding like a fool.
Wait, where'd you hear that at?
On your show.
Nice. Okay, that's what I thought. Dropped my phone there for a minute. Nice. You were listening, John?
Yeah, that was tough. I never heard anyone argue for the existence of like chihuahuas, but deny the existence of dogs. You know, like that's weird.
It really is. It really is quite strange. It was just like old times after FED, because freaking Harp was getting all mad at Akuma virus at the end. I was like, you guys gotta chill out with that shit, man. I swear to God.
Well, you got a lot of noise going on there, Hammer. You better mute.
Sorry, I'll mute. Yeah, that's why I'm back at work, so I'm gonna go to my desk. But I do appreciate it. I appreciate it, Nathan. I do. I don't know. I did have a question because you were mentioning the no ammo thing, and I didn't catch where. I think I looked back in like the chat where he was posting stuff, and I think it was in where he was showing the calculations or whatever on the chart. But I didn't really catch where it would have been appropriate for me to talk about the no atmo thing.
It's drawing a straight line. What is it? No atmo day? Isn't the line always bent, always refraction standard? Terrestrial refraction standard always? So what's this straight line? Sorry, didn't you make it explicitly clear, MC Toon, that the horizon is refracted at a standard rate always because we always have atmosphere? So straight line? Yeah, what is it? No atmo day? You don't have a straight line. The guy shouted it at him. I can't remember what his name was. One of the guys shouted it at him. There are no straight lines on a globe, Dumbo. And his response was, oh, we're not talking about the surface. No, not just the surface. You've got atmosphere. You've never not got bent lines. What's on screen now with our elevation angle demonstration is two straight lines. That is not achievable for them on a globe. I don't see in straight lines on a globe, ever. So you got an angle? Oh, well, then you're fucked. Was it no atmo day for this straight line? That's what it means.
Yeah,
well, you know, I got a better name for the Earth curve calculator. It should be called the Flat Earth viewing circle calculator.
Yeah, like Nathan said, they have no straight lines. Not on their globe, they don't.
Always refracted. I can't believe that never sunk in before. Thank you.
Hey, Nathan. Nathan? Am I coming through? Refracted, are you hearing me?
I am. I didn't know if anybody heard me.
Yeah, it's like maybe I'm not being heard either.
No, you're coming through. I hear you.
Yeah,
Calm your pants. Everyone can hear everyone.
All right. You coming in Discord, Nathan?
I mean, everyone but
I'm
Discord.
irritated.
See, the problem, Righteous, is Nathan thinks he's in Discord already, just like he thought he was in
Are you
G+.
speaking like a Kamala Harris language? What's yesterday is today or tomorrow? Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
There you go. I'm in Discord now.
Nice, nice.
Hey Nathan, hey guys.
Hey, ho, hey.
Hi,
Hey, Rebel.
night, Nathan.
Hey, One Deck.
Hey, Nate. Hey, I'm reading Kant, Immanuel Kant, The Critique of Pure Reason. And it dawned on me, and I read a few other philosophers before him. The whole idea of space-time is really a philosophical endeavor. It's a fruit of philosophical thought that was codified by Einstein.
So is the
Kant,
ether.
it's so obvious how they trying to what's the word, materialize space-time in order to explain God, or they're trying not to name it. They're trying their best to Plotinus, and he's just going on and on about the space-time, and it's
It's a
like
lot of
how many years before? What?
I have a bit of time. Where should I put it?
See, we measure our time with the sun's movement, don't we? That's our time.
Well, no, guys, you're missing the point. My point is, Einstein, at best, is a philosopher who took the ideas of philosophers preceding him, like Kant and like Plotinus,
Yes, you're correct.
and tried.
The fourth dimension is a
Sorry?
conceptual. When we say it's a conceptual medium, the bent geodesics in space-time, the space-time bit, the fourth dimension, that's conceptual. So when you say he's a philosopher, yeah, he's not dealing in physics. He's dealing in abstract mathematics.
Exactly.
That's right. Yes. So I'm just giving you my thought on the origin of the whole space-time idea. It's
I wouldn't say he's doing math.
Well, I'd suggest you read some of the works of Immanuel Kant and Plotinus, and you will probably understand what I'm trying to say. I may not.
But no, I was talking to Nathan. I would give him that he's doing math. Saying 2 + 2 = 5 is not doing math.
Correct. Go read something.
Well, see, they're trying to
right?
resolve the conundrum, right? They're trying to explain the unexplainable, and then so they, what's the word? Bring the immaterial into material. What's the word? My tip of my tongue.
Wait, can you repeat that?
My brain has me a fart right now.
You said bringing the immaterial to material?
Yeah.
Oh, because I've been hearing that recently as well.
Yeah. Well, Nathan uses it all the time. Anyways, so yeah, what I'm trying to say is the beginning of the 19th century, I think they were trying to codify it as material science, where in fact this is all deeply rooted in philosophy, and they're trying to basically square the circle of the reality of this world, arising from immaterial substances or whatever reality, right? We would call it the spirit, God, and to materialize it essentially by codifying into science the idea of space-time. And if you read those philosophers I mentioned, it becomes clear as day as to what exactly happened. So at best, I would say Einstein is a philosopher that
Wow.
was immortalized as a scientist. Right? He's not dealing with physical. He's just purely philosophical thought.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but no freaking kidding. And I don't see how you don't see the correlation that's happening right now with the ether. So, and I don't understand. Okay, they're philosophers. Well, that's who put the scientific method together as well. They were philosophers.
That's right. Yeah. Well, philosophers dealt with immaterial, but out of the idea of logic and argument comes out a practice of dealing with material world, and we call science. We call it scientific method.
Yeah, but once you abandon the physical, then you're going off the rails. Because when you're dealing in the physical, the philosophers get together and come up with something great called the scientific method, right? We agree that it's a great method, right? When used properly. But then everything else with this bending of space time, that's when they're off the rails, and that's when they become pseudoscientists.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I would say the science arose from the rules that are developed over centuries, over discipline of logic, right? By applying it to material world. So that's a scientific method, the hypothesis.
It's like all this stuff, though, isn't it? This bending of space. They can all talk about it and get into this fantasy world, but none of them can show it you or demonstrate it.
Oh yeah,
Because it's not physical. One day.
You guys watch Joe Rogan? I would love to see Nathan's reaction on his recent podcast with Michio Kaku. Oh my god! Oh my god! This guy is Michio Kaku is a perfect example of what Einstein is or was. The type of thinking. He's not a physicist. He's not dealing with material world at all. The guy is talking complete bananas. Like he's talking about universe bubbles and bubbles spilling off other bubbles. Like it's all philosophy. They're trying to ascertain the original cause, the original spark. And they're just going into, I mean, the the limit is only your imagination. The guy has not dealt with material stuff. I don't know, maybe since he was 17 when he built his particle collider. It's just insane listening to him, and it's laughable. It's just laughable. I'm listening, and I'm like, I just can't believe the guy is like 75 right now, something like that. He's a professor.
I've watched him read some of his speeches out and all that, and he's clearly just reading off a piece of paper. You know, probably been written for him. The guy was a buffoon.
No, he's not a buffoon. I wouldn't say he's a buffoon. Right? Let's not denigrate.
He's a pseudoscientist.
What I'm trying to say is, they are philosophers who herald to us as people dealing with material world, right? And that's a effing conundrum. The same thing happened. Like I would guess that same thing happened with somebody being a philosopher, a herald to the public as anything to do with material world. It's just a philosophy. Right. And it's like,
Rebel,
it's crazy,
Rebel, let me ask you a question, Rebel. Without experiment, it's not science, right?
What experiment?
Without an experiment, it's not science, right? You need to have an experiment for it to be science. So everything outside of that is philosophy and then pseudoscience, because they're not dealing in the physical. You can't show me string theory. My son was telling me this nonsense last night. He actually said that it's possible for Earth to be a spinning water ball, and there is a container, but the universe is the container now. So they push the goalpost all the way out to somewhere way out in space, but they acknowledge that they need containment. It's all philosophy. It's all pseudoscience.
Yeah, guess I'm digging a little bit on a different direction. What I'm trying to say is they're trying to materialize the immaterial. They're trying to bridge. They're trying to come up with a theory of everything, which plagued philosophers forever. Which is, how do you explain the notion of like Plato forms and your thought and whatnot into material world? And Kant attempts to do that by employing space-time, probably for the first time. He probably mentions that phrase 1,000 times through the book. The whole thesis basically revolves around that idea, space-time, right?
Yeah,
And
but you just said it. It's an idea. It's not physical. It's an idea.
That's right. That's right.
Ideas
so you said
are not physical.
Science is experiment. Yeah, but experiment arises from philosophy, right? So we would call it a thought experiment.
Well, this a simple definition of philosophy is quite literally the term philosophy means love of wisdom. In a broad sense, philosophy is actively people undertake when they seek to understand fundamental truths about themselves, the world in which they live, and their relationships to the world and each other. Now, that's got nothing to do with space-time in a fourth dimension, has it?
It's like, are you guys not listening to me? Okay, let's just abandon the subject.
No, you're not listening to us, Rebel. We hear you. We hear what you're saying. But you're not hearing what we're saying.
Well, I'm hearing what you're saying. You're saying that has nothing to do with physical. That's the preface I started with. Are you telling me this again?
Right. So they can anything else that they say from there on in, it's just their ideas. Space-time. Show me space-time.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's a philosophy and it's an idea in somebody's head.
Yeah. But it's
to get
a bit more than
time.
that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I thought somebody else was saying something.
No, I was saying you should get 2 bags full of time.
Time is a concept.
Yeah, if philosophy is to do with the world you live in, then philosophy's got nothing to do with a so-called space-time in the fourth dimension, because that's not the world you live in.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Neil in Element, The Hammer, LVA, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Zippity-doo-dah.
Okay. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Gonna need that for that.
I might as well get two.
We know that the Earth is spinning because we don't experience Coriolis deviation.
No, the claim is from the globe that we will and do experience Coriolis deviation, not that we don't experience it, and that's a proof. What are you talking about?
No, but it is the proof. You see,
Coriolis is
claim you're supposed to, but you don't. So that means it's a globe.
No. They claim it's a globe that's spinning because we experience Coriolis effect, and we don't experience Coriolis effect on the surface of the ground that we're standing on. Therefore, Earth isn't spinning because we're not experiencing their claim of Coriolis that we're supposed to see and experience, and we don't.
No, I disagree with you. And I mean, since now, apparently, according to Akumu virus, there are several sources on the internet, including Scientific American, that state that helium is more dense than oxygen. So I think you're just wrong.
What the hell does helium's density
to do with Coriolis?
No, nothing. You're right. What's that got to do with Coriolis? Coriolis is you observing things seem to drift as you turn beneath them on a non-inertial turning reference frame. The object you're observing travels straight in an inertial reference frame, and because you are turning beneath it, you see it seem to drift, take a curved path. It isn't, it's travelling straight, but because you're turning beneath it, it seems to. That's the claim of Coriolis. That is Coriolis effect. Well, Earth's claim to have that effect.
Well, maybe it's just inside out, because if helium is all up there, but it's denser than the oxygen down here, then maybe it's all just inside out, and maybe the only proof of Earth spin is that there isn't Coriolis deviation.
Well, the official globe rhetoric is that there is. This is the same do-si-do twice. Their claim is we have Coriolis on a globe, Earth that turns. Their claim is Coriolis proves we're turning. You're saying, well, the fact we don't have it must mean we prove a globe with that. No. On the contrary, not having the proof they say we have in the form of Coriolis drift to observe, if we're not observing the drift they say we will observe, then we're not using that as a proof of a globe Earth spin because it's not satisfying the claim. It's just that simple.
Well, in the future, a Scientific American article might pop up that actually agrees with me in this.
That globe Earth claims Coriolis, but because we haven't got any, it proves we're on a spinning globe. That makes no sense, but fine. Shout out to Jokerman, who says the globe is going to burn. Thank you for the super chat.
I'm sorry, I'm just still recovering from that scenario on my show. It was just weird, man.
And any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
It's an impossibility. It's just a stupid question to ask. It's impossible.
So never
Well,
going.
maybe if you use curved triangulation.
One at a time.
The claim is they have a curved tangent. Is that what the claim is?
Can't have a curved tangent, but yes, if you're claiming that you're living on a sphere and there is always an effect atmospheric refraction, refraction is the answer to the black swan. Remember? Yeah? Hey, Globies, are you listening?
Yeah.
Remember? You said refraction. Yeah, that means all lines to everything always are bent. And tangents, their necessity is in your globe model. And your tangent is non-existent. I'm nearly there. Your tangent is non-existent in the globe model because you've told us how bent it is. You can't have a bent tangent. Go ahead, Rebel.
Curved triangulation.
Rebel.
Yeah. You can't do trigonometry with bent tangents. Period. End of story. You can't.
With bent tangents, that phraseology kind of infers that there's such a thing as a bent tangent. But bent tangent's an oxymoron.
That's right.
Okay.
It is a contradiction in terms.
I'm really sorry I'm cutting you off, Rebel. It's I can't hear hardly anything. Or maybe it was you muttering.
It's a
I'm going to
contradiction.
blame you. Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, is that it? Is that it? Seriously? Because I can't quite hear properly. I need you to be absolutely clear that you have finished speaking.
Yeah, I was saying it's a contradiction in terms.
Indeed
Bent
it is.
tangent is an oxymoron.
That's right. It's a contradiction in terms. Absolutely correct. Right, brilliant. We've done a couple of housekeeping, or three.
Good morning.
Hey, 10th. Good to have you.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, on the last question that you asked, they're never getting an elevation angle from a curved surface. It's always from the equatorial plane.
Yeah, you're going
to. Also, you mentioned.
Go on.
You mentioned model. Which model are you talking about?
It's always going to be the celestial sphere model. It's always going to require a flat plane.
Well, even in the what they call the Earth curve calculator, that's not what that actually is.
Okay, what is it?
Well, it's a flat Earth viewing circle calculator, and it takes different heights and the viewing circle and stacks them on top of each other, and that curve in it is what they're claiming is Earth curve. But that's when they draw that line, it's a line of correlation depending on height and angle, not
You mean it's
Earth curve.
like a slope, like a straight line, like a slope?
No, like a line that goes below the surface level. It's actually denoted in the maths. John's absolutely correct. It denotes surface level. It explains what the maths is and what it relies upon. It relies upon flat surface level, and it's there right in the maths. Correct, John?
Well,
It can't get worse than that.
well, I think they have some latitude to do that.
Right.
Well,
what John's saying is
the curve part under.
I was just going to summarize. You carry on, John. It's your point. Go ahead.
The curved part underneath it is actually different radius flat Earths stacked on top of each other. And depending upon your height, that's where the viewing circle will render at that angle.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I'm going to do this before it disappears off screen. So in the chat right now, there is a link to this dude who's called Mortimer81. And what I want you to do is let him know. I'm sure I recognise this guy. Where do I recognise this guy from? I normally say I'm going in blind with this, but I recognise this guy's face. I don't know why. Maybe we have covered this guy before.
Week.
Pardon?
Covered him last week, didn't we? In one of the other videos. He wasn't called the same. Didn't have the same channel name, but he was one of last week's videos, wasn't he?
Maybe that's quite possible. I mean, I'm not that great with faces, but I'd certainly look at this and go, you seem familiar.
He does.
Okay, well, anyway, let him know. Nathan Oakley 19 or at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me in his comments. And hopefully, it'll help him algorithmically if you're leaving a comment on his video. Share the love and all that. The idea being that hopefully he would return the love to me and put a link to my video when he responds. We'll see. Anyway, we'll get into this. I haven't actually sound checked this, I don't think.
Everyone, flat earthers typically believe that the universe in its entirety consists of a...
So immediately starts with a stereotyping fallacy. Literally the first words out of his mouth is a stereotyping fallacy.
disc-shaped Earth covered by a firmament.
Sorry, was that all flat earthers believe that it's a disc shape? I have no idea what the shape is. None. I've never claimed I do either. And what's that you say? Firmament? No, I don't claim firmament either. There's plenty of people on the panel that would use the description of a firmament when describing the containment we require, but I'm not one of them. I say containment. So straight off the bat, your stereotyping fallacy fails on its arse. Wrong. How dare you?
Radius of which is comparable to the radius of the disc-shaped Earth.
What? I mean, maybe you'd like to look into what the equatorial plane is. Is that what you're talking about? Because you'll need that for your globe. That flat plane with the dome of the heavens over it. Maybe that's what you're referring to. The original model that your globe is based on, that's flat. Maybe that's what he's talking about.
The sun and the moon orbit inside.
Orbits are begging the question fallacy. So we've had a stereotyping fallacy and now begging the question fallacy. So we're just going to automatically assume that the lights in the sky above our head always are actually falling around each other. That's a begging the question fallacy.
This dome. And the stars are just dots on the dome itself.
No, I don't claim that I even know what the stars are. Anybody in the panel claim they know what the stars are to suggest that they're dots on a dome?
They're over there at night.
No.
Well, this guy's saying you say
Remember
this.
that bloke, Nathan? He was
Sorry?
on Flatside's show last week because Michael Kahn was taking the piss out of his purple shirt as opposed to the blue one.
But, Adam, have you ever claimed that the lights in the sky, known as the stars, are actually dots on a dome?
That would be a little insane, wouldn't it?
Well, he's stereotyping us.
Why would I want to? Why would I want to do that? For what possible purpose would I want to make such an outlandish claim of something that I can't prove? The thing about flat earthers is we recognise what we do, we know, and what we can't know. Bit Donald Rumsfeldy, yeah. But
I'd love to agree. I'd love to agree, but you've just stereotyped us as well. Bloody hell, Adam. You've just stereotyped us also. I'm sorry, Adam, but while you might like to describe that flat earthers feel or think in a particular way, I'm going to go with here at Flat Earth Debate.
Yeah.
And then your sentiments can be exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I stand corrected.
Can I say something short?
No, I'm going to go with no.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Darwin.
No, but seriously, let's just presuppose for a second they're dots on a dome. If they were dots on a dome, then how could we have a stable GP system? It would make no sense.
What, the system that's also going to give them their globe model? That system, Adam. Arwin.
Yeah. The reduction in angle.
Hold on, Adam. Let's just let Adam. Arwin get. I can only cope with one of you at a time today for sure. One ear.
I'm sorry. I'll keep it short, but it's just we have an angular system with the GPs. It's very perfectly consistent, but if they're literally like on a dome, how would that be consistent then? Because when you move literally in the dome, you're literally the dome's not going to move with you. You see?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense that way.
It doesn't work at all. And John Refracted is going to hopefully tally on to the end of John's point and reiterate the point he made literally only moments earlier in that exact respect about stacking up lots of discs on top of one another based on elevations and angle measurements to Polaris and depending on your location. But we'll get to that after Adam. Go ahead, Adam.
I'll just reiterate Owen's point. The dome is yours, but there is no dome. Yeah? Understand that the angular change has nothing to do with the shape of the containment. It's not because the containment is a dome or curved or arced. The reason for the change is solely due to perspective and your distance from it. So the lower the angle, the further away it is from you. Now that you can see an arc domey shape because it's represented by your eyes. Understand that is not the shape of the heavens. The heavens are flat. And the reason we see angular changes is based on how far away we are from its ground position.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt this little critique. Everyone else, wait a sec. Are you there, the hammer? Hopefully so. If he's not, I'm going to do a little plug. So this morning, I was privileged enough to be listening to the Reflected Philosophy channel, and MC Toon graced them with his presence, and had his arse handed to them. And there was some great sound bites. So I just want to do a quick shout out to the Reflected Philosophy channel, and hopefully it'll pick up some subs as a result. Also, hopefully one of the mods can drop a link to Reflected Philosophy, and you can check out the McToon Globe Earth Annihilation video. And there's also a link to Refracted Philosophy channel in that video. So it's just come out today. I've literally edited it and immediately released it with breaking news at the front of it. So if you want to check out the cut down version, because it was a several hour stream, there's an 8-minute video of the main juicy bits and the points being reiterated about the Black Swan on my channel, and obviously the original stream on Refracted Philosophy channel. So subscribe today. Sorry to go off on a slight tangent. I'll play a bit more of this video. Hopefully that'll get us back into the vibe. I'm sorry to segue so quickly. Go ahead.
Nathan,
yes.
I just want to say I did listen to that short that you put out. It's fantastic.
The 8-minute one.
Yes, McToon. Yeah, fantastic.
Well, loads of people have said to me, why don't you go and get the key moments from various debates and slap them together? And I'm like, no, because I haven't got a reason to do it. Then, thank you, Toon. What's that? What's the problem with having a straight line to a geometric horizon like Al Biruni's got in this diagram on screen? Well, the problem is that you've told us it's a bent line. Yeah? Do you not remember? 3 straight years of telling us it's refracted? Giving me every excuse to slap every damn fundy over the top of Toon, telling them it's a straight line with, we are not going to see the geometric horizon. The line of sight to the horizon's bent. What is it? No Atmo day? refraction, terrestrial refraction. In Toon's own words, it's refracted. But then he asks a panel of flat earthers, what's the problem with having a straight line? You debunked it in 2020, you stupid idiot. That's what's wrong with it. You say it's bent. Oh, you idiots with your bent tangents. Toon has just smashed himself in the face with a shovel. It's the art of ball jitsu. What's wrong with a straight line? You haven't got one. That's what's wrong with it. Shout out to Joker Man, who says, my nose fills the space between my eyeballs. Okay, I mean, that's fair enough, I guess. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
The point I was making earlier had nothing to do with the celestial sphere. It had to do with what they call Earth curve mathematics.
I mean, in general, that's your point that you would make at this stage.
Space as we.
I was just going to say that the flat plane has an ever-increasing viewing circle, and that arc is demonstrated in what they call Earth curve mathematics. And then they draw a line of correlation between altitude and the angle to the horizon.
Cool. Right, another shout out to Godzilla37, who says, you like money too? No way! Yeah, I do. It's very useful. Thank you for the super chat though, Godzilla. Really appreciate the support.
We know it is a lie made up by NASA. Let's take this on. This is Flurf Pratt. Flat Earth points refuted 1,000 times. Don't forget to rate the video, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Or go and let him know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. He obviously wants help in the algorithm like I would. So let him know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. We responded to your video and pointed out the fallacies you used. No, don't tell him that. He'll just remove your comment. But there you go. The link's going by in the chat literally now, immediately. If you're watching live, just go and click on the link. It takes 30 seconds. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me in his comments at the bare minimum with whatever you want to strap on. But that really does help him in the algorithm. And like I say, if he responds, it'll help me.
Here we go. When you simply look at the sky, you have no idea how distant any of the lights you see are. A few things seem obvious. The sun and the moon are closer than the background star.
Sorry, why would that be obvious? You've just said you don't know. You've just contradicted yourself in one breath. Is that not irritating to anybody else on the panel? We don't know how far they are, but it's obvious in terms of this distance difference. So you don't know, but you do know.
That seems perfectly legit. I mean, he has more subscribers than you, so I definitely trust him more than you, Nathan.
Stars. If nothing else, the moon clearly moves in front of the stars, blocking the line of sight to them.
Really? Why are the flags that show stars shining through the moon then? Why has that been shown?
Hang on. If the moon is blocking the stars that are behind it, then when the moon is not there for 2 days per month, how come we can't track it and see that it's blocking the stars behind it?
New moon doesn't block the stars, does it? So that's a incorrect statement based purely on how the new moon you need in your model does not behave.
The sun and the moon are about the same angular size.
That's true. So they're not actual size appears the same. Yep, I'd go with that. First true statement he's said so far.
Makes sense to think they're about the same distance away.
Why? Sorry, no, definitely not. So you're saying that if you don't know how big something is, it makes sense to assume it? No, definitely not.
Presumably the moon is a little closer because it can eclipse the sun, but whatever.
Sorry, eclipse the sun? Go on, whoever that was. We'll get to this in a minute.
Just pointing out we're having a Timmy boy moment here, aren't we?
You're mumbling. Bit closer.
He's proving, he's trying to prove something. If you look on screen, top left corner, this is software. This isn't real imagery that he's demonstrating his point. He'd have to go to software to make it. Little display. Astronomy software used for illustrative purposes, not proof.
Also, prove that the claimed eclipse is an occultation. Prove it.
However, it can't be that much of a difference, can it?
Did you know that there's an endless supply of
I truly understand why this seems intuitive.
It doesn't seem intuitive. Not actual sizes won't infer distance. You're just stupid. It's not a logical deduction to say that a not actual size will give you distance that you can infer, close or far. It's not reasonable to suggest that not seeing a moon moving in front of the sun means the moon's moving in front of the sun when you don't see it. You see what appears to be an occultation, but you don't see the moon.
But it falls apart the second you start thinking of ways to actually measure the distances to these objects.
Yeah, you'll need a flat Earth for that. When was this made? 4 months ago? Oh, my friend, you should keep up to date with the flat Earth debate. This is a relatively recent video. The angles to these stars will be what you use. The angles to things like the horizon will give you your hour value, and you can't take angle measurements off a globe Earth with atmosphere. So there's nothing intuitive about getting distances to the sun or distances to the stars when what you'll actually do is assume that Earth has a radius and is spherical, assume that Venus has the same spherical hour value and is in an orbital motion that you would assume, and that orbital motion, derived by Kepler and his third law of interplanetary motion, gives you scale and distance because the assumed R value is an actual size that you will ascribe to Venus in an orbital assumption. None of this is intuitive. And it's all wrong. You can't get any measurements. You can't get any straight lines. Ask Toon. Hey, Toon, how's that geometric horizon working out for you? Not so refracted after all, eh?
Nathan,
so how do you...
He's talking about distances. Well, in celestial navigation, it's angular, not actual distances in feet or height in the sense that you're measuring how many miles above you it is. It's an angular relationship.
Oh, well, then that can't be performed on a sphere. You know, we've got this diagram on screen now. This is from a gentleman named Andrew Thomas Young, who is essentially with this diagram explaining that you will never have a straight line of sight to anything ever. It's all bent, right? Yeah, refraction. Oh, really? Well, that means you can't take angles ever. You understand that there's no angle measurements to take from bent lines? And you don't have any on a globe. Atmosphere, what is it, no Atmo day? How are they going to take these angles to get distances if they haven't got any straight lines? Yeah? Hey, Rufy, you too, buddy? How's that geometric horizon working out for you? Yeah, you've got this. This is called the donkey dick tangent. Yeah, bent. Remember? Refraction. No straight lines for you.
You do that. Here's me and here's you. I see the moon between these stars and you see the moon between these.
You'll need a flat Earth for this. See this straight flat line? That would be your baseline. See these two straight lines? They're not bent in atmosphere. So you're going to need a flat Earth.
Of course, we're looking at it from different locations.
Yeah, on a flat plane. That's correct. All angle measurements to all stars require a flat plane. You cannot do this on a sphere. It's done on the equatorial plane, to the dome of the heavens, over a flat plane. Coincidentally, that's where your globe model came from. In other words, your globe model is derived from a flat plane. Did you not know that? Mortimer 81? Martimer?
But have a look at this angle P, the angle.
An angle that's only acquirable off a flat plane? Very interesting. You'll need a flat plane for it.
By which the moon appears to move if we compare my view of the sky with yours.
Off a flat plane. So these angles require a flat plane. Martimer 81, welcome to Flat Earth. As detailed before you got to your diagrams, the angles require a plane. That's right, you've proven Flat Earth. Like your diagram, with a flat plane on it.
Let's say the moon is up here instead. Notice how the angle gets smaller?
Off a flat plane? Yeah, angles only work on flat planes.
Let's put it down here. Notice how it gets bigger? Yeah.
On a flat plane? Yeah, these are elevation angles, aren't they? Now, we don't claim the height of this item. You have very specifically told us that it's not actual size infers you know its distance. We don't claim that. Yeah? The height, the elevation angle references with a distance. When you minus from 90 and times by 60, when you're calculating the GP position over a flat plane. That doesn't necessitate height. And why you're describing things being higher and lower in the sky when you're talking about a perspective angle measurement to something with its not actual size that you specifically detailed. Anyway, this all needs a flat plane. Couple of quick shout-outs to a few super chatters. Shout out to Jokerman, who says, please check out Bobby Zine's live stream tomorrow night. I'll be there, and sometimes Nathan is too. I am. I do like Bobby Zines. He's absolutely brilliant. Also, shout out to Retro Bill. I'm ending my relationship with this numpty $10 bill. Hopefully it finds a better home with you. Thank you very much for your generosity, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, there's a relationship between...
Yes.
Can you go to the reference and Master D, please?
Yep.
Okay, Smithsonian Magazine. A sextant is used to measure the altitude of a celestial body above a horizontal line of reference. Altitude, in this case, is a special use of the word describing an angular measure, not a distance in feet above sea level. A mariner can use the horizon as this line of reference, but when an airplane is above the clouds or flying at night, its navigator cannot see the horizon. The bubble sextant solves this problem by providing an artificial horizon. It takes its name from an air bubble in the liquid-filled chamber that functions like a carpenter's level, indicating when the sextant is aligned horizontally. When I look through the eyepiece of my sextant, I locate a star with a drum on the side of the instrument like a camera's focus ring, adjust the angle of a rotatable prism until the star showing in the eyepiece is aligned beside the bubble. The prism and the drum are geared to circular scales marked off in degrees. From these scales, I read the star's altitude. Rest my case.
This guy's proving a flat Earth. And you can check out any textbook or reference. None of them are going to reference measuring angles off curves, because a curve doesn't give you an angle.
Between the angle P, the altitude R, and the distance D.
Sorry, the altitude? No, we don't need the height. Yeah, for celestial navigation, you need the GP with a right angle triangle below the star, but the height is irrelevant. However, it still needs a flat plane, as he's detailing and showing you on screen right now.
Between the two of us. I realize I'm about to go way over the heads of flurfs, because...
Really? Given that you've just proven that the angle measurements require a flat plane, I'm going to infer that you don't understand this. That it's gone over your head. That you're proving a flat Earth and showing it diagrammatically. Go ahead, Adam.
The only way out of this, because he's using a flat baseline, is to turn that baseline into a chord on his ball. It's the only way he can do this, because he's had to draw a flat baseline. So the only way now is he's going to have to transpose this onto a ball. So the only way you can do that, I think, is to turn that flat baseline from A to B into a chord that goes underground.
Well, that's not what it's on this diagram from Andrew Thomas Young with the bent line tangent.
It's the only way you can do it. If he's going to, because he's trying to do, see, he's a lunatic, isn't he? What he's demonstrating here is parallax of the moon, which is a recognized celestial navigation phenomena. Yeah, it's part of how they used to tell the time at sea before the chronographers were invented. So this is what he's doing now. As far as I can see, he's going to try and show parallax of the moon based on different geographic positions on the plane, which is, let's say, celestial navigation. But like I said, to put it on a ball, whereas before they would take their measurements and take it to the equatorial plane at the center of their ball, here you've got to draw a chord through your ball.
In Master D, Adam, I just posted a slide. Nathan, can you show it?
I can, but I just want to do a couple of quick shout-outs. It's on screen now. Shout out to Original D Rose, who says Nathan Oakley Flat Earth debate, science versus pseudoscience rules. We are ace. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, D-Rose. Really appreciate the support. Also, shout out to Chronicles of the Unconvinced, which is actually Bobby Zine himself. Thank you very much for the super chat, Bobby Zines. Really appreciate it. Says, thank you to Jokerman for the shout out. Love Bobby Zines. So check him out. Yeah, subscribe today to Bobby Zines. Like I say, you'll see me in his chat quite often. I like his show. And give to memberships by Jokerman. Thank you very much, all of you, for all your support. Really appreciate it. I don't know why my chat's gone so wonky. It's not as pretty as it should be. Let's just sort that out. There we go. Thank you very much for the super chats. Really appreciate the support. Okay, it's on screen, 10th, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So you see here, the diagram shows celestial horizon. That's obviously the celestial sphere equatorial horizon that meets up with their presupposed Earth globe equator. So the equator of the globe extends all the way through space to the celestial sphere, one big flat disk. So that's celestial horizon, and that where they meet, where you see the 90-degree box, that's the center of Earth there. That's where the measurements in the nautical almanac, air almanac, originate from. Now, on the surface of this presupposed sphere, they can't take an angle measurement, so they have to have two more horizontal lines. One is the geoidal horizon, which would be sea surface level, and the sensible horizon would be the eye line level, which a bubble section would give you the same horizontal. All three horizontal lines are used in celestial navigation in the books when they talk about how you do things. But notice, never a curve. You can never get an elevation angle from a curve.
I'm looking at that picture. I don't think that demonstrates what he's going to do. If I was to see where the observer's eye is, you take that as person A, and then say go to 2 o'clock where person B would be. You're then going to draw a chord bisecting the circumference between person A and B. So you end up with just a small segment sliced off the top of the ball. That's the line he's going to draw between A and B, and then measure the parallax between. But it's going to be a straight line. Yeah, that sort of thing, Nathan. Yeah, cutting into the ball, going underground and coming out at person B. That's the line he has to equate what he's just done on his ball, surely. But
This is going to be way more complicated than lift P flush. But for those who actually care, high school trigonometry.
Pause, please. Go to the next slide I just sent you, Nathan.
Right quick before you do, 10th, are you saying that they're claiming 3 flat plane horizons equals a sphere horizon?
No, it means that they can. No, it just means that they can move what they claim is the top 2 horizons down to the center.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 1/10. Thank you.
Yeah,
but them are flat plane horizons as well.
We've only got one horizon. And the horizon in there begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is the physical geometric leading edge tangent point horizon they call Earth curve. That is not what we are talking about. This, on screen now, is a description of a celestial horizon. And they're saying the center, where it's got an arrow that says center, that's where you will be when you're talking about making measurements. You'll be in the middle of the molten iron core if you're going to claim this is a sphere that you're standing on. You're not. You're standing in it. So obviously this isn't the sphere of the Earth they say we're standing on. It's got sod all to do with the sphere we're standing on, because we're not standing on one, and we're certainly not standing in the middle of one to make these angles work. But this has nothing to do with the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, and how that claim of that Earth curve will necessitate a chord line being dragged through to make the example on screen now work when he transposes it based on Adam's assumption. And I think Adam's right. We'll see. He might not be.
I'm not saying that it will. I'm just saying that the image that 10th showed 3 flat plane horizons. How do they figure that it's a sphere with that?
They don't, but like I say, that this is what they would show us if we said you need a flat plane. They'd show us 3 flat planes with you standing at the center of a circle and say that that's the middle of the sphere that the angles will be related to. It doesn't actually prove you're standing on a sphere, because you're not even standing on this circle. You're in the middle of it.
Exactly. If you go to the next slide I put there, do you have it up?
Yes.
Parallax error. If you go to the part on the left first. In altitude is the difference between the altitude of the body above the bubble horizon at the surface of the Earth and its calculated altitude above the celestial horizon. Now that's the center of the Earth one, at the center of the Earth. All height calculations are given for center of the Earth. All. If the light rays reaching the Earth from a celestial body are parallel, so they're assuming light rays are parallel, the body has the same altitude at both the center and the surface of the Earth. For most celestial bodies, therefore, parallax is negligible for purposes of navigation. The second part's kind of cute because I think Brian's logic, Adam, you can comment on this, the angles from the shadows from the moon on a stick are exactly the same as from the sun. But look what it says here. Correction for the moon, this does not apply to the moon because it is so close to the Earth that its light rays are not parallel. I mean, just goes on. This is incredible.
Bad moon shadow.
Geometry tells us that R equals d over 2 over tan p over 2. If p is small, which it typically will be when we're looking at objects in the sky, R equals d over tan p is a good approximation of this.
Right.
Where R is height. R is height, according to him.
Yeah, we've now stopped doing celestial navigation. We're now just doing basic trigonometry.
To get the height that we don't need.
Yes. That's not invoked in celestial navigation. Nope. You can't invoke in celestial navigation.
This has no practical application for a sphere because the calculation is done on a flat plane. It's required for these to be angles. Furthermore, in terms of practical application for things like celestial navigation, which saves people's lives, you don't need R. I don't know why you're babbling on about this. The only thing you're going to use it for, after measuring angles off a flat plane, is infer that the height can be transposed when you insert an R value that curves this line you've taken the measurement from and is flat and is the required baseline for saving your life if you're lost at sea with celestial navigation. You don't need R. Yeah?
You do. You do. No. So, yeah, but no, but yeah. Right? He's mislabeled this. You are going to need R. When I was saying you're going to create a segment, you're going to need R to calculate the segment arc length, the proper R. Yeah? Their R, their radius value. Why he's put that? That should be H, height to the star, because he is going to. He's got. Can't say any other way. He's got to invoke R, the proper R value in this to do the calculation in a bit to calculate his circumference, the segment he creates.
R being H. Just for the audience, we're talking about height. Just so we're clear. I know he's labelled it R. We're not talking radius. We're talking height. Just so we're all clear.
Yeah.
P is called the parallax, the apparent angular displacement of an object as it is viewed from two different locations.
Documented in this celestial navigation measurement description on screen now as negligible. Not considered when doing celestial navigation with the moon. Isn't his moon the specific example that he made?
The moon's a bit funny.
Sorry, just 1 second. Let me just see the super chat. Shout out to Joker Man. He says they can only slow us down. Thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Adam.
But the sun and the moon do have some forms that you can account for. But this is not a new discovery. This is well known. Like I said, this is the key to the lunatics for telling time at sea, this parallax of the moon. How exactly it's done, I have to confess, I couldn't recite it, but that is the premise, that it's this parallax of the moon and knowing it that allows you to translate local time. So this is just a perfectly well understood part of celestial navigation that's now being used to make assumptions for height and distance, to use trigonometry to give you a distance to the moon, which is, let's say, not celestial navigation.
You have something to add,
look at the,
causing feedback.
if you look at the, I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at that diagram I sent, the one that the correction for the moon, because it's closer and its light is not parallel, to the side of that you see a gray box and it shows the moon It shows the Earth as a circle and then the center. So it's everything's coming from the center. Remember, everything originates from an equatorial plane. And they're saying that the differential there. So parallax may be as great as 1 degree. I think I can't read it at the correction, and it's always a plus. And then it's got a table to the left. But again, how do you get an elevation angle?
Hold on.
Can't do it from a curved surface.
I'm a bit confused. I mean, I've used a telescope, right? If you're going to claim that there is parallax, there's going to be positive parallax and negative parallax. Now, one would assume that these two would cancel each other out as a, what's the word? The margin of error when observing these things. Am I wrong? Adam, I'm sure you've discussed this in the past.
It's where it's going to sit in relation to the other stars in the fixed non-parallax star field that it's talking about. So there will be a slight difference, in my understanding, of the position of the moon in relation to the other stars. And it's this position of the moon in relation to the other stars that allows you to figure out your latitude, no, your longitude, sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, I stand corrected.
Hang on. Let me bring some clarity. Go back to the left. Hang on. Go back to the left side where I highlighted it, where it says correction for the moon. You'll see what they're doing here. This does not apply to the moon because it is so close to the Earth that its light rays are not parallel. The parallax of the moon may be as great as 1 degree. Thus, when observing the moon, a parallax correction must be applied to the height HS. Figure 53 shows that the moon appears at a lower altitude from the surface of the Earth than it would appear from the center of the Earth. The correction is always plus. So they already got you in the begging the question, 59 miles below where you took the observation, and say because of that distance, there's going to be parallax.
Oh, so I see. So I was half right. It's only applicable when you're at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth in the molten iron core making this measurement, which you're not.
Or doing celestial navigation from the celestial plane, which is the flat Earth, which we dwell atop.
Indeed.
People take pictures of the sky on a moonlit night at the same time. One is located in my hometown of Linköping, Sweden, and the other is in Cape Town, South Africa. Okay, I don't actually have a buddy in South Africa, so I'm using astronomy software to just demonstrate the method. Flurfs are going to complain no matter what.
What software? To my understanding, they're all on a flat plane too. Be interested to know what software you used. Pretty sure they're going to be using the celestial sphere. Maybe you can enlighten us about which software you used and whether or not it was using the celestial sphere or not.
What I do.
Because that's a flat plane.
Because even if I took real photos, they would say it's CG.
Would we? Or would we ask whether or not these elevation angle measurements that you're claiming could only be taken place on a flat Earth as you drew them? We would suggest
That's
yes.
Some weird logic.
Yeah, I know. I can't use real pictures because they'd just say they're CGI. So I'll just use CGI.
Exactly. Nonsense.
Just treat this as a demonstration of the method, okay? That makes D 10,200 kilometers, assuming the Earth is flat.
Is this Google Earth? This also represents as flat. This distance measurement that is just drawn out is represented on a flat Earth. The elevation profile you can draw up also and show that the distance is not accounting for 8 inches per mile squared curvature drop. That's not accounted for. Not in this software.
In reality, we'd have to use this distance.
What? When in reality we have to use your cartoon? Now, I've just explained that the reference to the distance that you're going to claim has come from a model that's using a flat Earth reference system. It's using a Cartesian grid. That's flat. There's no curve in that model you just showed. This is just a cartoon you've come up with. But the things that professionals use, the Google Earth Pro is actually used to build things, to figure out where things are going to be on the land. And it's flat. So that flat Euclidean grid-based system that you just referenced, that does prove we're on a flat plane. This doesn't prove we're, rotating in an orbital presupposition? Definitely not.
9,100 kilometers.
Sorry, from what? The not actual size of these items in the sky?
When we superimpose the images using the stars closest to the moon as reference, we find that the moon has a parallax of 1.42 degrees. That gives me an R of 411,000 kilometers, not 5,000.
So you were right, Adam. Kudos, as always. You know this stuff before it even comes out of their mouths.
If the moon were just 5,000 kilometers away...
Who's claiming that? Hands up who's claiming the moon is a distance when we've specifically pointed out that you and us. So you can't strawman us with it like you are. Can't get the height. These apparent distances and apparent sizes won't give you actual sizes or actual distances. There's no logical consistency to that. We already pointed that out. But you're going to strawman us with us saying we've got a height because you need one. Yeah, you need a height. Yeah, we aren't claiming 5,000 kilometres or whatever it is you suggested as a straw man that you're now going to burn in false dichotomy. I am supernatural, says Jokerman. Thanks for the super chat.
The parallax in this observation would be a whopping 64 degrees. What's funny is that even...
What if you straw man us with a height that we haven't claimed? Based on what? I mean, if you're going to claim that's the case, surely you'd be taking elevation angle measurements that won't give you height. Yeah, we've already pointed that out, haven't we? But you need one, don't you? And you got it by angle measurements off a flat plane that you just showed us in your diagrammatical examples of that angle measurement that needed a flat Earth. So, well done. You've proved that you're going to hijack flat Earth elevation angle measurements to infer heights to the celestial items. No, you can't get elevation angle measurements off a curved surface, my friend.
When we assume the Earth is flat, we still get a...
No. You just measured it flat for angles. No assumption. It was a prerequisite. It had to be for you to get elevation angles. They're two straight lines. What do you mean when you assume Earth's flat? Okay. Get those angles that you just gave us without the flat plane. Oh, what's that? You can't? It's a prerequisite. It's not an assumption. You need it to be flat. The globe needs it to be flat. The angles need it to be flat.
A number that, although wrong, is on the same order of magnitude as the correct 384,000. If we use the correct D of 9,100 kilometers, we get R equals 367,000 kilometers, which is...
Not without flat Earth elevation angle measurements, you don't.
Even closer to the correct...
So this was the point. So here's the fudgery. So he's now going to change the distance between the two people, which he's going to pervert it by, he knows the distance is 10,200 kilometers between him and South Africa, right? And that's what he's taking all his measurements from. But that's not going to work when he's trying to pervert this into a ball. So what he's got to do is exactly what I knew he was going to do, is cut a tangent, a segment through the ball to create a straight line, and then change the numbers. Because look what he does now. Instead of 10,000, which is the measured, he's now going to assume R and do a calculation to work out what that baseline of the triangle he's going to draw between the 2 points and the moon will be, which now comes out to be 9,000. Where's that number from? It's not from reality, is it? He's just calculated it based on R and the assumption that A and B are on a ball, and therefore if they're on a ball and it's 10,000 between the two, if you dig a tunnel between the two, a straight line, that line will have to be 9,100 kilometers. Now he's going to do his distance to the moon based on this number he's pulled from assumption and calculation.
So, my friend, your tangent distance doesn't match the arc distance that you'd have to infer across the ground. Further to that, your distance that you acquired in the first place came from a Cartesian grid system, Google Earth, flat Earth.
Value. So this completely obliterates the Flerf's model.
Sorry, which model would that be? Nobody here's claimed a model. You're the only one with a model. So because you've held it up in false dichotomy, you think that describing flat Earth elevation angle measurements and doing the do-si-do by drawing a chord line and extrapolating out a flat baseline distance through the chord line based on an R value, that you've somehow annihilated a bloody model we haven't presented. Oh no, my friend, there wasn't a false dichotomy here. We pulled it apart before you presented it.
But now let's take a look at the distance to the sun and see if that's the same.
Well, you'll need an R value and you'll need angles from a flat plane to get it.
Turns out there's a problem measuring the distance to the sun using parallax.
Really? You're going to need a flat plane for the angle measurements.
Can't superimpose images with background stars on them because they vanish in the sunlight. Sure, I could do it in Starry Night, but I want to restrict myself to methods that work.
But you're telling me, let me just get this correct, that you could do this measurement of the sun on a starry night? Is that what he just said? I think I'm going to have to listen to that again. Shout out to Unitox Femu, who says...
Go back, but it did seem that.
I'll listen to it again. If you have GBD, global belief disorder, breathe deep and repeat. Sea level, and sea level will help you from your fears. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Unitox Femu. We really appreciate the support. Almost 130 people watching. Woo-hoo-hoo! Please share the show. Smash the share button. For those of you who've already done so, that's the only reason we've got 130 odd people watching. So thank you very much if you smashed the share button already. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? It's right there. Just hit it. Smash that share button. Put it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you use, Bebo, MySpace. Smash that share button. Thank you very much again to the Unitox family for the support. We'll have a listen again. What do you reckon, Adam? I think he did just say that he could do this sun measurement on a starry night. We'll see.
In reality, was images with background stars on them because they vanish in the sunlight. Sure, I could do it in Starry Night, but I want to restrict myself to methods that work in reality.
Work in reality? What, like sun measurements on a starry night kind of reality?
So let's measure the distance to Venus instead. Fortunately, on occasion, such as June 6, 2012, Venus passes in front of the sun.
Are you not going to need Huygens' assumption that it's got the same radius value as Earth? Members of the audience, ever heard Venus referred to as Earth's twin? Ever pondered why that might be? It's because of an ingenious assumption made by Christian Huygens. What do you know? If you assume that this claim to be light in the sky, probably CGI, has the same radius value as Earth, then you can use Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion to get the distance by the scaling values. You just need something's actual size. And of course you can assume this has the same R value as Earth. It's its twin. By assumption, by Huygens.
As seen from Earth.
We got iPhone 4.
Two pictures of the transit from different locations at the same time and superimpose them using features on the solar surface as reference. Or we could use the paths of...
But did it just say solar surface? Do gases have a surface?
For the purposes of this explanation, yeah, they need to. I don't get what this is proving. Again, we're doing the parallel of Venus in front of the sun.
He's in the begging the question world already. He's taken everyone there as they listen to him. Number one, he's assuming Earth's a sphere with a radius, which the black swan destroys. Then he's assuming Venus is Earth's twin with a radius same as Earth. And then he's saying, well, because of that and because I believe all this, look how I can make this work with the math. Wait a minute, you can't even prove Earth's got a radius value. What the heck does this guy think he's got here?
It's fundamental, actually, for all of the maths he's presented. He gets black swanned because for all the angles for him to draw on his ball, the horizon has to be the leading edge of a ball for him to create tangents to angles, and we know the horizon isn't that. So
still on screen.
Fundamentally,
Still on screen. Donkey dick tangent horizon. You haven't got any straight lines, ballers.
It's not there. It's not there to create the tangent to then apply to a presupposed arc and on two different positions. Do you get me? It's not there to be able to make the assumption to then put those angle measurements onto a ball. Because of the black swan.
He's not even on the ball. He's in a chord line.
The planet because they will be parallel.
No, pause.
That's done in reality. But here I'm going to use the surface features of the sun instead because it's simpler. Here I'm taking pictures from Linköping and Tokyo. They didn't get a good look at this in South Africa because when it happened, they didn't have a line of sight to the sun. Still funny how that works if the Earth is flat.
Sorry, what? Bent line of sight to the sun, like refracted through the atmosphere. Yeah, you see.
Or nighttime.
Yeah, or nighttime. When it's twinkling stars.
And we don't have an angle to the sun. I mean, say it.
Can I say something about the last statement? About the
I'm going to go with no. No, you can't.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead.
Yes. The chord line is a horizontal line. It's only a chord line because they got that circle drawn, and it's going through the circle as if it's an actual representation of a sphere. The previous slide I showed 3 horizontal lines, all elevation angle measurements derived from the equatorial plane, which is just a horizontal line. And then they got 2 more horizontals on top of a sphere. If this guy thinks he can do another horizontal and make it go through the sphere, and that's a chord line, that's just another horizontal. The sphere is surplus. It's not necessary.
Anyway, that gives us a D of 7,530 kilometers. That's the straight distance through the Earth. And a P of 0.00914 degrees. 530 kilometers. That's the straight distance through the Earth.
Did you hear that? The straight distance through the Earth. Like I say, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Adam Meakin.
And a P of 0.00914 degrees. That results in R equals 46,900,000 kilometers. Compare this to the accepted value of 43 million kilometers. It's definitely in the same ballpark.
Just enough wiggle room, as Adam pointed out, ahead of the game. Gotta give you props, Adam. You're superb. Shout out to Jokerman, who says, "You're a ball buster, Nathan." I am. All one word.
Enough to show that once again,
thanks for the super chat.
Flurfs are off by orders of magnitude. The sun...
Right, flurfs are off with what claim?
Can't be the same distance.
Because we pre-assume everything and we take all the numbers from the heliocentric model, and we manage to demonstrate that the numbers we've pre-assumed and taken from the heliocentric model match the heliocentric model, we can say that the flurfs numbers are wrong when they're trying to ascribe height to celestial navigation.
Which we don't. I think he should stick to operating toilets. Maybe that's an appropriate ad hom for him. Yeah? Be careful when you're dishing out the ad homs telling people how stupid you are, because some of those people might turn around and pull apart your bullshit and make you look stupid. That's us. Yeah? We're ahead of your presuppositional mathematics before you've even spouted it. But you think we're the dumb ones? Mr. I'm going to use elevation angle measurements that are only capable of a flat plane and then put that flat line through the Earth? Yeah, you're thick, my friend. Don't be ad-homming us and stereotyping us. I'll explicitly tell my audience to go to your channel and let them know Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a comment at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me because of your stupidity. Stick to flushing toilets. Maybe that's a bit above your pay grade too. Yeah? Because this is obviously not in your wheelhouse, my friend. You seem to be proving a flat Earth as much as claiming your wiggle room for why your globe don't work when you draw through the Earth. Because obviously that's what people do on a daily basis when they're navigating the surface, with flat angles off baselines that aren't curved and not from the centre of a molten iron core, because that's the only place the angle will work from. You know, none of those things are necessitated by a flat plane, just angle measurements to the lights in the sky. The same angle measurements that give you your latitude lines on the flat plane that transpose onto your globe. The next time you start calling us, stereotyped as flat earthers, idiots, bear in mind you've spent a good chunk of your video proving Earth is flat, with angles. Let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
From the Earth as the Moon, because when Venus is directly in front of the Sun, it's 2 orders of magnitude farther away than the Moon.
Based on Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and the assumption made by Christian Huygens that Venus has the same presupposed spherical R value as Earth as a sphere, when derived from flat Earth angles.
And the sun is obviously even farther away.
When you don't know the distance because you haven't got anything but Christian Huygens' assumption of R.
You know, because Venus is in front of it.
And it's the same size as Earth because Christian Huygens said it. With an ingenious assumption.
So can we work out the distance to the sun?
No, you can't, you utter clown. You will need a flat Earth to get the R value. By any means or method. You will need an assumption that we have orbits. You will need Kepler and Huygens and their assumptions of orbits and R values. All of which we have debunked. Every last scrap of this garbage has been long debunked. Flushed down the toilet, you might say. Another shout out to Original D-Rose. He says, in the words of Neil Constantino, hey, Nathan, stop busting balls. Thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Now? Yes, actually we can. Let's have a go at it. When Venus appears as far from the sun in the sky as it possibly can...
Are these angles originating at the centre of these items? Like the centre of a spherical Earth? Yeah, wouldn't you know that my man on the panel 10th man already called it? Yeah, us at the centre of the molten iron core now. Why would we assume this? Oh, is it because it's the only way we can derive the angles off an equatorial plane? The one that gave you the globe model that was then used to infer orbital motion by Kepler? Yeah, you see, we know the every in and out of origin when it comes to your globe model that came from a flat plane.
The angle Earth, Venus, Sun is 90 degrees. This is called greatest elongation. We measure the angle between the Sun and Venus at greatest elongation and find that it's 45.8 degrees. If we set the distance from the Earth to the Sun to be 1, the distance between the Sun and Venus becomes sine 45.8 degrees, or 0.717. The unit we're working in is called astronomical unit, or AU. So during transit, we find that 46.9 million kilometers is...
No. The AU is a unit in scale. The kilometre value is based on an assumption from Christian Huygens. We've just covered this. Go on.
Yeah, but this is his guilty admission, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is exactly what you called, ladies and gentlemen, Nathan Oakley. He's now gonna do exactly what you said with regards to Huygens. He's set the tone by introducing the Arwinian unit in there. So that gives him his scales, as he described. Look, the distance now is 0.7, sine of is 0.7, which is the sine of 1. He's saying. So he's using trigonometry still. He's got his scale. Now all he's got to do is turn that one astronomical unit, find something to convert it. And he's now going to do what Nathan said, which is to make the assumption that our little twin sister up there has got the same R value as us. And that will then enable him to generate some numbers based on assumptions of matching R values, distance to the sun, based on that, like I said, based on that first thing that he's pulled out, its greatest distance, which its greatest angular distance, which he then interprets to mean its perigee and apogee of its elliptical orbits.
May I interject, Adam?
You can after a shout out, Jokerman. Says, just left a comment. Said you said he was a numpty, and I concurred. They live in ignorance. What a bunch of numpties. Thank you for the super chat, Jokerman. Really appreciate it. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, I mean, again, here we are. He's begging the question. He's got us in orbits. He's got us in outer space. He's got the sun at a certain AU. Okay, fine. I'll give you all that, but first you got to prove the radius of the Earth that you say Venus is a twin of. So the black swan, again, destroys everything. Now we're into this conversation, and I'm glad we're breaking it down. But if they can't prove the radius of the Earth or Earth curvature, this talk is nonsense.
Yep. Can't base your orbital assumption on an R value if you can't measure an R value. Not that it makes orbital assumptions any more valid.
As he's admitted there, you can't base an orbital assumption on a maximum angle that you measure once or twice a year between two lights in the sky. That's the premise of this orbit that they're calculating. Is on this day, look, we've got this angle. On other days, it goes as low as this angle, and we vary between the two. That's the assumption of the orbit. That's all they've got to build a mathematical model of the orbit.
You may be right, but the very first part of what you said destroys everything. How do you measure an angle from a curved baseline? How do you even get the angle?
Doesn't. He's drilling through Earth and making the angle measurements, assuming Earth's flat in the first instance. At no point did he use the curved surface.
Is 1 minus 0.717 equals 0.283 AU, making 1 AU, the distance to the Sun, 166 million kilometers. Again, we end up in the same ballpark as the accepted value of 149 million kilometers. Using a flat Earth and treating the distance between Linköping and Tokyo as 8,385 kilometers.
So did we have to drill through Earth to do that? Or did we just draw out a line on Google to get that value?
Is being within 11 million kilometers acceptable to them?
Drop in the ocean.
The distance we find on the map, we still find that Venus is 52.2 million kilometers away and the Sun 184.
No. Your values were based on your deriving the AU scaled values to compare to a height we don't claim because it's not required. Again, you're trying to burn a false dichotomy straw man that we have not claimed. You don't need the height.
Once again, even if we give flurfs everything they want,
well, I would want that you concede that this elevation angle measurement to any star or any luminary is going to require a flat plane because that's what an angle is. You establish a horizontal baseline and then measure its elevation in the sky. That's the angle between you, the horizon, or the established horizontal baseline if you use a bubble described by 10th earlier, and the light in the sky. Now that'll give you various different things, but it won't give you its height. You need its height because you've got an orbital assumption. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Adam. I'll go after you.
What we got here is elevation angles and celestial navigation, which we can use to get us tell us accurately where we are on the plane and to navigate across the plane accurately within feet. What I'm hearing here is we can take these elevation angles, apply trigonometry, and inaccurately make a number up that can be tens of millions of kilometers out from the supposed model. And that's being purported as proof of something. It's a Michio Kaku. Look at the discrepancy in what he's actually saying. Yeah, 149 million. It's close to 184 million. So we're virtually there. It's in the same ballpark. That's actually 35 million, isn't it? Discrepancy now. These things should be perfect. As I say, we use celestial navigation with great accuracy within feet when we use it correctly. When you're 35 million kilometers out, what use is what you're doing? Isn't the maths demonstrating to you that this is bunkum? We can't do this. It doesn't apply. Look at the variance we've got in our results. They're nonsensical. And you compare that
the nonsensical
accuracy
results
that celestial navigation gives you tells me which is the correct methodology for elevation angles.
It's the one that's used. It isn't used by deriving the page 87 version of the complicated maths that you could use to drill through Earth and get tangents and put your elevation angle that you claim to have taken from a flat surface at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth and then deal with all the minor 35 million mile discrepancies. You don't do any of that. You just measure an angle, you minus it from 90 and you times it by 60, and that gives you the distance to the GP. That's it. It's really easy. No sphere Earth involved, and it couldn't be because the prerequisite of the angle was that the Earth was flat.
Just the fact of your last statement, and it's what they say. You minus it from 90, and times it by 60, the co-altitude, to get the zenith distance from GP to GP. There is no 90 on a curved Earth surface.
Their so-called model fails completely.
So-called by you. We're not claiming a model. We know that you can use the equatorial plane and the celestial sphere to navigate your position and find your way if you're lost. Find out where you are and reference straight line distances with 90 degrees below stars that could be tens of thousands of miles apart. So, no, what we can do is not worry about some flat Earth model we haven't claimed when the model that's used in this process is flat and must be for angles to work with it.
His model just fell apart. We don't have a model. We just know what an angle measurement is, and it needs a baseline, and it needs to be straight, horizontal, level. So his whole model fell apart the minute he mentioned angle, which are two straight lines meeting at a common point called the vertex, which they have at the center of the Earth, and the baseline is the equatorial plane, which also extends to the celestial horizon, which is the equatorial horizon, one big flat disk. In their model, they need flat.
Yeah, Earth is flat. It's measured flat. The systems and grids that are transposed onto a globe originated from flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris in the case of latitude. To renegotiate or re-maneuver around those grid systems that are flat, you need to measure angles that have a prerequisite flat Earth for you to measure them. Everything about navigating on Earth is flat. Earth is flat.
So he thinks he debunked the model that his globe Earth is derived from, is what he thinks.
Yes, glad to hear.
Good job.
Yeah, he's saying that the model that has a grid, celestial sphere model, that's a flat Earth with a dome sky perspective view over the top of it. North Pole centric. That is transposed onto the globe. So when he says the model that the Flurfs claim, what the model that your globe was based on, the flat Earth elevation angle measurement derived, flat Earth angles to Polaris derived, that model, the flat Earth model, that one, is that what you're talking about? Because we're not claiming some flat Earth model beyond what is actually in practical application and has been used in practical application to give you your sphere. Ha ha ha! Shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth. He says, Euclidean geometry debunks globe fantasy. End of story. Never a truer and more concise statement given, Vlad on Flat Earth. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really, really appreciate the support.
Flurfs obviously can't calculate or measure the distances to their fantasy sun and moon.
We don't need to. It's not applied in celestial navigation, for God's sake, man. Maybe if you researched what Flurfs need, you'd figure out that the Flurf model that you're now saying doesn't work means your globe can't be derived from it, can it?
Because they don't believe in math.
Excuse me?
Sounds
Maybe
like
Adam
this
would
guy
like to
was
comment on
born in
that.
2000.
Sorry, no, it's all right. I'll have Adam on this one, please.
Very dirty.
Adam.
Yeah.
Good.
It's not often. How very dare you, sir? I preempted exactly what bullshit you were going to claim. I understand your maths very well. I understand its problems, and I more pertinently, I understand the assumptions you make.
What did you qualify in? There was a mathematical aspect to the science you qualified in, was there not, Adam?
Yeah. You have to do calculations, derivations, and all sorts of stuff.
Maths.
Yeah, lots of math.
Right. And of course, you're qualified to prescribe drugs to people based on your qualifications and understanding of that maths, right?
Yeah. So drug calculations are very important. Yeah.
Yeah, people would die if it wasn't for Adam's understanding of maths. Yeah, we'll just call that what it is. Some wanker using a stereotype fallacy and ad hom. Just another wanker, ladies and gentlemen, like all of them. This is the best he's got when he proves that you can only get these angles from a flat plane. it's probably best to tell us that we're just toilet flushers who don't understand maths. Yeah? That's called an ad hominem fallacy. You seem to be full of quite a few fallacies there, Martin Man, or whatever you go by. Please let this dude know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Don't point out his absolute garbage and fallacious reasoning. Just let him know, with algorithmic love, that we sent you there. Do it now. If you're in the chat live now, there's a good 100-odd people watching. You know, smash it. Go and hit that link and tell him that we sent you.
They didn't measure or calculate the values. They just made them up.
No. The values that you referred to in Google Earth are done with a Cartesian grid. You know, we didn't have to tunnel through Earth to get them. They were flat. Go on, Adam.
We did. If we take these things are measured. Okay, the distance between places. We measured the angles, okay, using a flat baseline. That's what we did. What he did was measure the angles using a flat baseline, take the distance, then assume a straight line distance by tunneling between Stockholm and South Africa. And he used that distance, one he completely made up. Wasn't derived from anywhere. It was just calculated based on an assumption of an R value, which he can't prove.
No, he didn't actually qualify that, though, Adam, so we should really put that as a question rather than a statement of fact. So I don't really want to... I don't want no part of that. I'll just ask it as a question, Adam. It's unfair. Did you tunnel to Stockholm, dickhead?
And obviously that means they can't be independently verified.
What, like tunnelling? I mean, your measurements, everybody's got that tunnel, haven't they? To verify your bullshit measurements. Yeah, projection much. I think you're just projecting.
Our values can.
What? Come again?
Hold on.
Our values can?
No, they can't. We debunked that in 2020. Go ahead.
Hold on. The celestial navigation angle measurements are independently verified every day, constantly. That is just wrong.
On a flat plane, they are.
The distance to the moon and the sun and Venus, for that matter, can all be measured using radar, and that confirms the accepted value.
Radar?
Wrong. the radar claim...
The distance to Venus? Really?
Let me just pull it apart. The radar claim is based on the timings that you gave us derived from the AU and scaling values of Venus having the same radius value as Earth. So if you're going to infer that you can get the return signal from radar, you'd have to know when in time that you would look at the return signal. And when in time they do look in the signal, what do you know, is based on when they say the return signal would come if Earth was heliocentric. So the timing values that they say they're confirming are confirming their own do-si-do circle jerk assumption that the timings will match the ones that they have derived in the first instance. Now, but for the fact that Christian Huygens has assumed that Venus has the same Earth value of R, you wouldn't have these return timings to infer that those timings are being confirmed as a return signal from the item that you say it matches with the signals that haven't been, defuzzed, shown amongst a load of static. You've got nothing, just the assumption of the maths that you're claiming to confirm. Go ahead, Adam.
Not quite complete, that story. We need Tony for this, but from my understanding, the guys that do it went and did it and looked in the logs, and they could not confirm a return signal. So what they needed was some top men to come in and show them in their quasi-experiment where the return signal was that they couldn't see. And when they were shown by these top men, they went, oh, yeah, there it is then. But even when they were looking, it wasn't there, was it? They had to be told by somebody else that, no, it was there.
Okay, so we're talking about Jodrell Bank and Bob from NASA going into the guys who said there's no return signal to see. Send guy from NASA quick. There is. You show him where it is. You see, it's just here in this fuzz, lads. Now, according to the story that Anthony Riley has disseminated quite a few times, They were hard to convince at Jodrell Bank. The guy at NASA was hard pushed to convince them, but with a lot of convincing, they saw the signal that they previously couldn't see at the timings that the heliocentric model said it should have been at. This is at Jodrell Bank. Anything else?
Yes, all of which is nonsense. All of which is nonsense because they don't even have R in the first instance for the Earth we live on.
Well, he's saying you're confirming the
that's also
distance to up
assuming
to Venus.
That's also assuming the speed of the return signal. Right?
Oh yes, they've also got to take the AU value as a distance based on Newtonian. Sorry, my bad. Einsteinian speed of light, distance, and time. When you've got a equivocation fallacy, because the Einsteinian mathematics is based on a time dimension. But we're going to qualify it with the distance the return signal comes if you've got a speed of light that's been debunked by quantum mechanics. Correct, Rebel? Nice to have dropped that in before we round out this live show shortly.
The distance to the moon can actually be measured using laser with centimeter precision because the astronauts who were there, yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We're going to have to point out that these return signals, these astronauts going, what are they going through to get there? You know, going through a thermodynamic violation. Yeah, we are breathing gas, guys. What you're claiming to not exist.
Okay, let's break that down for the guys in the audience on screen now. According to this guy, men have travelled from here. Is this about Florida? Somewhere around here-ish. Out past the high-pressure gas that we're all breathing and into an area that's claimed to be 10 to the minus 17 torr. It's a sky vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, then the high-pressure gas in this CGI image that's obviously CGI, because he's disclaimed that, would fill this area. Because if the model he created in his CGI rendering had the second law of thermodynamics applied to it, then entropy law would apply to it. And gas, which expands at high speeds in all directions, all vectors, wants to fill whatever space it has available to it. It's called entropy. Second law of thermodynamics. So, if men can traverse past the sky, pressurized gas, and enter a sky vacuum, then so would the gas. Rockets don't pass a line in the sky called the Kármán line and wave goodbye to gas pressure. The gas would also continue in whatever vector it's travelling at a high velocity, filling the area of volume until it reached equilibrium, which would mean we'd have no gas because it would all be spreading out in this area that's enormous, according to them. A vast space for the gas to fill. Oh, what do you know? They call it space. So this would be an area of volume for the gas we're breathing to fill. Meaning that the claimed journey to put retroreflectors onto the moon took place in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum that is definitely not real. There was no journey through a sky vacuum. We'd have no gas to breathe. If men can traverse the sky through the pressure, then so can the pressure. That's what pressure is, the force it exerts on the walls of its containment. And if there is no containment, as depicted in this picture, then the gas would fill the space and we'd all be dead. Debunking the moon landing and any claim that we're travelling through sky vacuums to put retroreflectors on the moon, when those stories of return signals with lasers from the moon was claimed before they even made up the lies of travelling through sky vacuums. They just used that story. Go ahead, QE. Welcome, by the way.
No, hi, QE. Let me just finish here. He's been ad-homing us, calling us flirts. His biggest enemy is not us. It's natural law.
Yep.
Angles, natural law. It's over. What's about to come out of his mouth is nonsense.
QE, you there? Did you want to go over the retro reflectors as we're on the subject? We're right at the end of this video. It'd be nice to have a bit from you on it.
Yeah, his mathematics acumen is hovering below his geometric acumen, too. The friggin' clown show. This guy spends the whole video with his triangulation crap that he screwed up with about 30 different assumptions, one including a flat earth. And now all of a sudden at the end of the video, voila, we know it because of radar. What the hell is that? What do you got, ADHD? I didn't hear anything about the radar in the beginning. It was all your triangulation horseshit.
Oh, it's the art. The art.
Anyone catch on to this?
The art of the non sequitur.
Yeah. So back to the retro reflectors. In the second law of thermodynamics violation, they purportedly shot a laser in 1961 and bounced it off their fairy tale moon. So why did they need the retro reflectors? You retro retard, Mortimer.
Left reflectors there. And that's actually a way to test that people have actually been on the moon. Those reflectors are there, and you.
What? So if they hadn't been to the moon, we wouldn't get the reflection. So therefore, quantum eraser has quite literally debunked your premise as false. Then. So, but for the fact that men have been there, we wouldn't get reflections. We do get reflections prior to men being there. Therefore, men couldn't have been there. It's an unnecessary lie.
Hey, everyone, can I add something to this?
You can. Welcome, Brian Logic. Actually, I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, I got to point out something here that's so stupid, right? When you bring up to them that they were already claiming to be bouncing things off the moon, signals off the moon, they say, yeah, but with the retro reflectors, they have to be more precise, so they're using microwaves. All they're doing is calculating the same thing, but differently using microwaves. That's all they're doing. It's pathetic. And they're using a two-way speed light calculation, which is only an average, which is based on a globe Earth with a radius.
I think Rebel, you're absolutely right. I think Rebel dropped that in first, actually. So props to him. But yes, you got there at least 2 weeks earlier. Go ahead, Tent.
No, I was going to say, Brian, you're actually telling me they're going to use a microwave to measure? I use it to heat up hot dogs or something. Come on.
The wavelength of light. Wavelength? Debunking gravity? Quantum mechanics. We'll come to that another day.
Need them to be able to use laser to measure the distance to the moon, which, again, we can.
No, you can't. You can presuppose the return timings based on heliocentric assumptions.
But of course, that's just as fake as mathematics, right?
What? Again, what an outrage to a mathematician on the panel.
See ya.
Yeah, dickhead. Bye-bye. Let him know we sent you. Nathan Oakley, 1980.
This is a chain projector. It's just projecting all over the place.
Look at this clown. Mathematics. Jesus, you'd fail third grade geometry, sunshine. Ass clown.
Well, he just showed there with his last claim there that he doesn't understand what the two-way speed of light calculation is. He thinks that's a measurement. If he knows so much about mathematics, how come he doesn't understand it as just a calculation?
Any other comments?
No, I just like to reiterate that the premise of all his calculations, Brian, was the fact that he'd tunneled from Stockholm to South Africa and measured that distance.
Just as you're on the point, why would he need to do that? Is it so that he can create a flat line between the 2 points?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. You're going to need a flat plane for that. But with that, I am going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link, joined as a member, gifted memberships, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Matrix, G+, and Discord panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
I just want to say that I think that Brian and me totally called it. This guy is like one of the first person that's actually moving into the cognitive dissonance event horizon. It's getting so bad.
You have to nick their terminology. The cognitive dissonance event horizon. That's a lot to unpack.
Definitely.
Well, Brian can explain it perfectly.
Arwen hands it off real quick.
No, I'll explain it. We're seeing an event in history that was never seen before. We're seeing an event that was never seen before in history.
That's perfect.
We have a group of people experiencing and taking bigger levels and greater levels of cognitive dissonance that no human being has ever taken before. So we don't know what. Hang on, let me finish. We don't know what effect this is going to have. We've never experienced it in the world before, so we don't know what's going to happen to these people.
Actually, I have experienced it. So the next person that comes off an airplane says, "I saw Earth curve." I'm going to say, what was it called again?
Now, cognitive dissonance event horizon.
There we go.
It's the event horizon of cognitive dissonance itself.
Right. So he's on an airplane like I've been, 40,000 feet. No, hang on. I've never seen the Earth curve at 40,000 feet. He gets off the plane and says he sees Earth curve. Isn't that something he hasn't seen before that he thinks he's seen?
Yeah, but we're talking about that's only like that's only like 10 units of cognitive dissonance.
It's not just one example of cognitive dissonance. It's compounded cognitive dissonance. When you have cognitive dissonance upon cognitive dissonance upon cognitive dissonance, and you end up scattergodding projected cognitive dissonance continually. And that's exactly what this guy was doing the entire video.
All right, so 10 units of the airplane, 10 units of elevation angles to players, 10 units of no R value. That's 30 units. What's the other 70?
No, it's not like that. We're talking. It's like the radiation scale. It's like that the 10 units that the guy getting off the airplane says he saw air curve. That's the ordinary Aegis, and that's 10 units of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it's still on the scale.
Hang on, one second. We're talking about people who are taking a daily amount of 18 to 20,000 units.
There's no problem with it being all.
We're talking about people that are off the scale, that we don't have normal senses or equipment for to actually size up how bad it is.
I finally understand what you mean. Thank you.
Did you guys, by any chance, listen to the video I furiously edited? I really worked hard on it, actually. I'm not going to lie, but when you're enthused to do something, you do work harder. Anyway, did you all watch it?
Just play it, Nathan. I'll ask for it. Play it.
Yeah, the 8-minute one that you did this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's outstanding. Yeah. If I can make one suggestion.
No,
when they
I'm going to go with no.
The bulb, well, you're going to go with that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I fell into that one. When I've seen it before too, when you talk about the bulge and their claim that we claim that there's a bulge, you need to put the whole where it's coming from Mick West and his bulge. It has to be coming from it. There's no reference to where it's coming from.
It's on screen. It's pictorial.
Yeah, I know, but it needs its source.
Okay. So for future reference, you're saying, when Craig's saying, these stupid flat earthers saying we should have a bulge, it muddies the waters. No. Mick West's Earth curve calculator marked with an X labeled horizon with the word bulge below it suggests that we do, sir. If you think you're on a Earth curve calculator based model.
Yes, sir. That would have completed the circle.
Okay. Right, I'll play it.
Kiri, I got it.
I've got it up, Nathan, so we can actually see it if you.
Well, tell me when I will go. Tell me when you're hovering over the play, and I'll go 3, 2, 1, and then just make sure everybody mutes, including you, Adam.
Yeah, well, I'll mute now, and then you tell me when to press play.
I'll count down for 3. 3, 2, 1, go.
Why is that a problem? A straight line. Edge of the globe is a straight line.
MC Toon, how's that geometric horizon working out for you? It was all very amusing while you were on Refracted Philosophy channel, asking the question, what does it matter if we've got a straight line to a geometric tangent point horizon that we cannot see? What is it? No Atmo Day? There was me thinking you told us the horizon was always refracted. Standard. atmospheric refraction. Your rebuttal to the Black Swan. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy.
Okay, I think you do owe in that answer, MC. Why is it all straight lines?
It is a good point.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
And MC Toon, if you want,
straight lines on a globe, jackass.
and
It's not on a globe.
And they're not on a globe because the globe has a curved line, not a straight line.
It's not along the surface of the Earth.
So the baseline doesn't correspond to the floor we're standing on?
No baseline involved. Yep, there's no baseline.
Oh, okay, so there's no surface. We're not standing on anything, are we?
It's from an elevation significantly above the ground. It had nothing to do with the ground below me.
So you weren't above the ground, right?
I had nothing to do with the ground below me. Is this geometry too hard for you to understand?
so nothing to do with the horizon then, McToon, right?
But the horizon definitely is the edge of the globe. 100%.
Well, you weren't on the ground, right?
Above the ground, right?
We got him, boys. We got him. We got him. Clip it, clip it, clip it, clip it.
I know that.
Do you know what you just said? You said the horizon is the edge of a ball?
It absolutely is.
See?
MC, why are you saying that stuff online like that?
Elevation above what, I wonder, since the bottom baseline of that triangle doesn't correspond to the Earth, right?
Of the globe.
It's the horizon is the edge of the globe.
Give you a
That's
diagram
a case closed type of thing, man.
It
That's
probably will go over your head.
You can't just say
There
that
it is.
stuff online, MC.
To the edge of the globe is a straight line.
And it's a straight line, not a curved line.
Completely ignoring conflating variables like atmospheric refraction that completely mangles the view.
Probably just demonstrating the geometric horizon. Demonstrating the geometric horizon.
We are not going to see the geometric horizon.
We just demonstrating the geometric horizon. I may have been talking about geometric horizons at that point.
So it was a geometric horizon. Yeah, in the Isle of Man, you drew a tangent to the bulge rumpus to claim it was Earth curve getting in the way. It wasn't a refracted bulge.
Well, I may have explained that's a geometric condition, just like Mick West has...
Oh, so it was a geometric horizon getting in the way after all, then?
You owe in that answer, MC. Why is it all straight lines?
It is a good point.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because all the flat earthers spout these things like, oh, there should be a bulge of water, blah, blah, blah.
The assertion that we should have a bulge obstruction at the horizon is definitely a sphere claim.
And it muddies the water of what the actual truth of the matter is.
The truth of the matter being there is a positive assertion that we do have a bulge on a sphere Earth, you assume, based on an R value we debunked with the Black Swan. And that's Mick West's model on screen.
on a basketball or something, rather than just listening to flat earthers parrot things like, oh, there should be a bulge of water in the way, because
there isn't. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, and the assertion that we have a geometric physical bulge horizon based on an Earth curve using an R value debunked by the Black Swan is absolutely absurd.
they don't know what they're talking about.
If you encounter any flat earthers that assert there should be a bulge getting in the way of things at the horizon, you be sure to correct them. They're wrong. And this model on screen now is the GitHub model. We definitely don't have a geometric sphere edge for a horizon.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because
to the edge of the globe is a straight line.
We are not going to see the geometric horizon.
No one's claiming that we see physical geometry.
To the edge of the globe is a straight line.
It's not a visual horizon.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because
the apparent horizon is the one that you see.
And the geometric one is the one we don't see, because if we don't see it, it's not a horizon.
It's not a visual horizon.
To the edge of the globe is a straight line.
So we don't see it, so it's not a horizon.
You are correct. We do not observe geometric horizon.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
Changed by refraction. Do your eyes always tell geometric truth?
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because
The short answer to that last question is no.
Unorthodox. Is a tangent line straight?
Yes.
Of course, what Mr. Oakley will say is that we presuppose what the Earth is, the shape of the Earth. Well, yes, because that's how models are made.
In other words, how it's not Earth curve, that's the rebuttal to the Black Swan. We wouldn't expect to see geometry. What, the geometry that blocks boats and buildings? Well, okay, we wouldn't expect to see Earth curve. Earth is flat. Welcome to the club.
To the edge of the globe is a straight line. To the edge of the globe is a straight line. To the edge of the globe is a straight line.
So the horizon is a physical geometric sphere edge then? No, we've debunked that. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. As per the geometric, begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. And the images of the Black Swan demonstrate beyond all certitude that the limitation claimed to be a physical horizon is beyond the limitations of the geometry of a sphere, Earth radius 3959.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not physical Earth curve.
Atmospheric refraction.
So no, we've debunked the horizon as a physical Earth curve edge.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because so to say, oh, I can see curvature at the horizon, is you telling me that the horizon is now Earth curve? Like in your Earth curve maths?
Edge of the globe is a straight line.
So in your Earth curve maths, it says the horizon's going to block things. But you've also told us that that maths doesn't represent what we see. Cognitive dissonance much?
Maybe he thinks he can see it, but just not calculate it somehow.
The curve calculator doesn't represent what we see. How the hell are you going to claim that the blockage at the horizon is Earth curve as per the maths that you say doesn't represent what we see?
Atmospheric refraction.
You seem to be in cognitive dissonance, my friend. It can't both not be what we see and be your claim that the physical geometry is blocking things. Meanwhile, we've debunked it with the Black Swan. It's beyond all limitations of a geometric sphere edge horizon.
Show me the picture that debunked the Earth's curvature.
It's called the Black Swan.
Why is that a problem? There's no problem with it being all straight lines.
Because talking about the horizon that we actually see, the distance to the horizon changes.
Atmospheric refraction.
We are not going to see the geometric horizon.
Brilliant video, but we got it all kind of like echoey over here.
Yeah, I realised I wasn't meant to be muted, so halfway through I tweaked that.
I did say
it was you. I thought it was Kiwi. You sent him a text on the mute. Then I thought it was Nathan. Sent him a text to tell him to mute. It was Adam.
No, I saw I saw
sound,
Adam's mistake, but could still control the show, and it still went out nicely to the audience. I'm sure you're pleased to know.
Cool. Well, that's why I didn't interrupt. I twigged, and I was going to pause it, but I figured it wasn't bad at your end for the recording. So.
No, I'm all over this. I'm not. I'm terrified it's all going to collapse at any minute.
Well, we just had a modern day version of the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, it was horrific. I had to turn it all the way down. But I went with Adam's advice. I figured I ain't going to say nothing because it's probably going out good to the audience. So there you go.
I figured out all the way through.
The ad, right? There was an ad in the middle.
That disjointed it as well a little bit, but it was all right. Good clips and anything. Makes the point very well.
Great. And it also just shows you a summary of how cognitive dissonant the guys have been over the years, all concentrated together.
Cognitive dissonance. You got a bunch of dizzy, double-speaking, Dunning-Kruger dipshits. That's not cognitive dissonance. They're fucking pretender clown frauds is what they are. Pseudo-intellectuals. Just fucking romper room.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you there, Kiwi, but I'm saying that despite all that, they are probably still experiencing cognitive dissonance as they go. Obviously.
The bummer was, in timing terms, that I didn't catch the beginning of QE's live stream yesterday, as you know from when I came in and said you could begin. But I went back and listened to it because I thought, there's always something good at the beginning of QE's stream. And sure enough, there was me. It was great. Anyway, it was me talking to Akumo Virus, and he had, just by pure coincidence, the exact same problem that McToon, Rue Hiff, Phil Bell, all of these numpties are starting just now, 3 years later, to realise that they've got. All lines to the horizon are straight, says Akumu Virus. Well, the light rays coming to your eyes are all bent. Also, Akumu Virus. Same thing.
Yes.
Just coincidence. It would have been a better example. It would have been nicer to have had that Toon example on the beginning of your live show. But it was the same thing, but in a different format from a different person. Exactly the same thing. It was just great. I was like, wow, what a coincidence.
I
noticed
was
a peculiar
emphasizing.
trend that every glober that we encounter has a different beliefs regarding horizon than any other glober. Are you guys experiencing the same thing?
Well, they're very
But they're
messed
still
up.
all stuck in the Arwinian paradox, though, because that's what that is.
When you say different views, you mean they've got a double speak around the fact that they haven't got a straight line to it anymore thanks to the Black Swan? Or if we're debunking the straight line they say they have got to it, it's all refracted. It's a
They
paradox.
can't seem to agree as to, sort of, they can't seem to agree as to what geometrical horizon is and, everything that pertains to the horizon. I've yet to hear a coherent view between the globers as to what the phenomenon is.
Okay, that's okay. You can just take them to their own bloody maths. Here you go. It's marked with an X, labelled with the word horizon at a tangent point in your geometry. That's pretty clear to me.
That clip you built, Nathan, was about as coherent as I've ever heard the ballers. That is their argument, that clip. Or lack of, or the cogdis that they're having to apply. The contradictions. That's how they hold it together, Arwin, isn't it? Really,
Hold it together? Not at all. It's starting to fall apart at the seams. They've been kicking the can down the road for 3 years.
It's how they keep it compartmentalized.
Just that Brywinian paradox.
Yeah, actually, we meant to tell you about that, Arwin. Brian did prove that he came up with it a couple of weeks before you.
I don't care. It's the Arwinian paradox.
Well, that's what I thought.
Can I mention something in regards to previous discussion regarding reflectors? You guys mind?
Just after Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just saying that's what a thought stealer would say.
Yeah, bloody thought stealing Arwin again.
I was there first.
Anyway, look, serious words to be coming out of Rebel's mouth, hopefully. Go ahead, Rebel.
Right, and there's no win.
Yeah,
Rebel.
Oh, sounds like Arwin Rebel.
Okay. We have a doppelganger here. So it really pisses me off anytime anyone mentions the so-called reflectors on so-called moon surface, because it only takes 10 seconds to check out what the retroreflectors actually are. And if anybody wants to Google the image, paste it in the chat. I just don't have the means right now. You will see that those not the mirrors. There are conjugate mirrors. Anybody here knows what conjugate mirror is?
Hold on, are we arguing about how the gas lamp in Narnia works?
Yeah. So, but the conjugate mirror is a material phenomenon. Like, it's very well known. Essentially, the mirror that reflects the signal, whether it's light or whatever, the wave, electromagnetic radio wave, exactly to the same origin as signal. So it doesn't bounce the light; it bounces the light directly back at the origin. That's what they claim to put on the moon, which means essentially it looks like a surface with triangles, like panels for soundproofing that you might have, Nathan, with like a triangular cone sticking out from it.
Sure. I've seen what they claim to be on there, the retro reflectors. I've seen them. I know what they look like.
Yeah. So what that means within heliocentric model is that they will never, even if it's true, right? We'll concede the point for the moment as a thought experiment. If they would send a signal from the Earth to the moon, nothing will be reflected that they will be able to register, because by the time it is reflected, which is 4 seconds later, the signal bouncing back, the Earth would be in a completely different position, miles away from the origin point, which is where the signal would be reflected back at.
Okay.
So
Let me
the
just
whole
try and.
idea of
good
the
point. Okay, let
signal
me
being
just-
registered from reflectors, yeah.
I got you. Let me just try and summarize your point. Just bear with me though. If we assume orbital motion and we assume Earth has a radius value that you can't measure and has been debunked by the Black Swan, and that assumed debunked radius value is transposable onto Venus with orbital motions derived from Kepler, then we can have a second law of thermodynamics violation trip to the moon to deposit retroreflectors that can only reflect the light directly back to the source. Given that this reflector that's been left after a second law of thermodynamics violation trip to the moon and in an acclaimed orbital motion, our motion would put us in a different location in said presupposition of an orbital heliocentric assumption with R-based assumptions and Venus-based R-based assumptions and Kepler's third law and Huygens and all the rest of it, and a second law of thermodynamics violation trip to the moon would mean that we'd be in a different position. Therefore, we wouldn't get light back based on their own narrative in their own story. Correct?
You took the words
That is
right out of my
correct.
mouth.
Debunk that Rev is talking about. That was the debunk back in 2015, 2016. And that's, if you go back and you check it out, they had to claim that they weren't doing that anymore, that they were shutting down that whole shooting lasers off of the retroreflectors. So for 2 years or something like that, 2.5 years, they were claiming, back then, they were claiming that it wasn't going on anymore because of that argument, because of the rotation of the globe and the orbit of the moon around the globe. But then they came back a couple of years later when they got cheekier. They came back again a few years later and pretended nothing happened. I remember that distinctly because I remember that argument. I remember making that argument myself, believe it or not.
Yeah, it would have been
because
derogatory
back
if I'd
then,
have said that to Rebel.
it was
though.
me who debunked it. Yeah, it was me who debunked it in the first place, 2015, 2016.
Was that you?
Anytime
originally?
anybody
Because I
mentions
remember making that
retroreflector,
just
I
one sec.
point that out.
Go ahead, Rebel.
Yeah. So anytime since 2015, anyone mentioning a retroreflector to be proof of reflecting anything and registering any signal, point that out. I asked the question, do you know what the retroreflector geometry is? And of course they don't. I point out it's a conjugate mirror, which means exactly what Nathan summarized as it to be. You will never register a signal back because it will be not just a couple of miles, it'll be tens of miles away from your origin source location based on heliocentric orbital motion.
Right.
You will never register any signal back. You have to stop the Earth from moving and Moon from moving in order for you to register anything.
When begging the
You'd
question of
also
orbital
have
motion.
to
Go on, Adam.
If you're saying in this, begging the question, you'd also have to pre-assume the position that you're firing to. Because if you fired,
I mean, we'll
line of
concede all
sight,
that, right? Let's say they
won't
know
be
it
there,
all.
will it?
Yeah. It's. I know. I've done it to you, and he's now doing it as well. And you're conceding that you understand all the presuppositions that have come since 2017 or whenever this was a prevalent argument. But yeah, Adam's just adding fuel to the fire, though. I know we're all friends here, Rebel, bloody ether believer.
If we're going to play, how does the gas lamp work? You can add even more fuel to the fire, can't you? But
we'll do it anyway because we didn't get it.
So if you're firing the laser from Earth to something 250,000 miles away, and you're using the pre-assumed speed of light, two-way speed of light to do it, then there is going to be a timing difference between firing the laser and its arrival at the moon. So you would also have to kind of shoot ahead of where the laser is going to intercept with the moon after that time difference, because you've got 250,000 miles. So it's going to add a lag. So you've got to predict it.
But I would say
Yes, you
just
have to
Sky
lead the
vacuum.
target. It's called leading the target, yes. Even
Yeah.
if you do that.
In
that
a
doesn't
heliocentric orbital motion, you would have to lead the target, but we're not. And, you know, moving further forward in time, we've debunked all of these premises at their foundations rather than within them. So, although I'm not trying to be derogatory when I say it's 2,000 old and busted argument, it's because it has to work within the premise that they used to win. Like talking about how the Earth curve calculator wouldn't work, it's still working within the premise that Earth has a sphere, Earth, edge, horizon at a tangent point, and objects are refracted or not refracted with respect to it, and how much they are or aren't. The things like that is a similar vein to this. When Adam reiterated the gas lamp burning in Narnia, it's to say that if you come up with an objection of how something operates in the area of Narnia, then would it be more sensible to point out that Narnia isn't real and why, or how the gas lamp couldn't necessarily be working off the vapours given off by the snow as claimed in the narrative of Narnia, but could only be there because there's pipes in Narnia that doesn't exist? Or in this case, tracking targets in an orbital motion that's presupposed, therefore doesn't exist. It only exists in the maths. Yeah, but still, that's a perfectly valid point, and it sharpens the edge for people who don't know why we can just cut these things off the knees, and they may not know that. Those of you who are listening, that is, I'm talking directly to the audience. Sorry, go ahead.
I remember now. Sorry, just before Rebel goes, I remember now what it was that they changed. Back in 2015, 2016, they were claiming to just shoot a laser and get a direct signal back, right? Which was debunked by their own rotation and lunar orbit. So what they said, they went away for a year or two. They came back probably 2017 or something, 2018, with the same nonsense, but claimed they were shooting trillions of lasers, like trillions of signals, and one of them will always hit the target and get a return signal. That was what that's how they jumbled it up.
Yeah, I remember. It was Cox that covered it. And he had to be convinced by the producer of what the validation or point of going to do it was, and the point was exactly the same as Mortimer or whatever he's called used, which is to say it's useful because it demonstrates that we are on a sphere Earth, because we wouldn't have the return signal unless we dropped the retroreflectors. So that's what Cox had to go and punt back in the day when he was being bitch whipped around by his producers at the BBC. Well, that then expands on to Rebel's original point. Okay, so you're saying we bombard it with a load of lasers, which was what Cox was covering. Okay, so you barrage it with lasers, one will hit. What about the fact that you've moved position when the signal claimed to be returned from those style of retroreflectors can only, according to its design, return to its original source? Well, if it's doing that as per the design spec, then it's going to be returning the light to a position that Earth isn't in anymore, even if you've barraged it with them. So one or two coming back to a position that it's not at anymore. So either they're faulty, but then you're into, if we can argue that the retroreflectors can somehow send them off in different directions furiously, you're into arguing about how retroreflectors work in a sky vacuum, in a presupposed orbital motion, rather than cutting it off at the knees, because you don't have to argue about how retroreflectors work. But it's still useful to know. I'm not putting this down. I want to stress that.
I get it.
Yeah.
How retroreflectors work, specifically conjugate mirrors, is a known science. There's a lot of scientific work done on that. So that's not disputed. What I would just wish that you would have done, I just wasn't able to pitch in when retroreflectors were mentioned in the video during the main show, is to exactly debunk the whole notion of even not being the case within the model, because they seem to rely heavily on radar reflecting whether it's off of Venus or off of Moon. And so bringing the argument right then and there would be helpful.
If you stuck it...
debunking something within their second law of thermodynamics violating vacuum model.
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
So you're going to debunk electrical conductivity in Narnia. Okay, I got it.
It's called playing with your food.
Yeah, that's fair enough, though, isn't it? I've lightened up on that. There used to be a time, Rebel, where when Anthony did that, he would get an earful from me. How dare you beg the question on their behalf? you're not giving it in that example. You've been a bit more careful in your wording. And you're giving an example where someone's already into begging the question. They're already stuck in that paradigm with them. And they're going to have to work their way back out again. Well, if you can undo an argument within their paradigm and then slap on the top of it the fact that this is all moot. So you wouldn't be able to get the return signal. According to the design of the retroreflectors, they can only return to the origin, and the origin is somewhere else in an orbital motion. However, orbital motion is a begging the question fallacy. It requires an R value. It requires Huygens' assumptions of Venus's R value in that presupposed orbital motion. And the journey for the retroreflectors to get there for you to claim that they're going to return to a place that Earth isn't took place in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. I thank you.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than that.
Sorry,
May I rephrase it a little bit? So
I'm going to go with no.
Accept.
I'm going to go with no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So they may not accept the notion that Narnia isn't real. So we can't get them out of Narnia. So we're going to have to step in Narnia and seek the arguments that seem the strongest within Narnia.
Oh, no.
No, let him finish. I know the objection, and I'm smiling. Go ahead.
Yeah, but that corresponds to physical reality that we know, right? Conjugate mirrors that work the way they do. So they superimpose the physical reality into Narnia, claiming it to be the proof. Once you take that away, based on physical world and proof, that leaves them with less, hooks to hang from to believe that they are in Narnia. That's the entire point of that exercise.
Okay. First, let's just say
take Narnia away.
Let's just commend him first with this before the shit sandwich begins. Firstly, bless your empathetic heart. It's Be Kind to Dumb Animal Week in Rebel World. Got to beg the question with them, have you? No. Go ahead, Kiwi.
Oh, you take Narnia away. Why waste your time? Yeah, Nathan was right about Sleeping Warrior. He used to drive us nuts with that, right? But every once in a while, you'll find us going down there in the weeds and giving them Narnia just for fun. But officially, like if I'm officially doing it, oh, no, I'm taking Narnia away. I'm going to rip it out like a fucking Alabama tick.
But if you like playing with your food,
that's what you would do. I unfortunately choose not to do that because that's too big of a wound to leave the animal with.
Yeah, bless your empathy, bless you. Yeah, that's all been knocked out of me.
I know. So, but in the context of when we're talking with people who are not as enlightened as a current group of people I'm talking to, right? It might be hard to comprehend that Narnia doesn't exist, right? It's too much to take in at one bite.
No, I totally get it.
So,
I agree. I totally get it.
No.
Just one more point, then UQE. And also, you got to understand the payoff that Rebel's getting out of this, because when Rebel goes through this, now we've obviously all, firmed it up. Not that he needed that, but, we'll take all the credit. Brian came up with it at least 2 weeks ago anyway. But when he goes through this with them, the reward is immense. They bring him gifts, they thank him, they make little videos about him saying how wonderful he is. So, it is well worth it, isn't it, Rebel?
Who?
The people you're telling. The ones you're so empathetic towards.
No. He's got the wrong target audience. See, we're not trying to convince the knuckle draggers that they're knuckle draggers. We're showing the audience that they're knuckle draggers. You got the wrong target audience.
Yeah, even for audience, I believe it's too much. It's too big of a wound. It's cognition will kick in because the way I view it is this radar reflectors are the big subject among globers.
You're right.
Gigantic. Right?
As
Taking
an
that
analogy,
away
Rebel,
from them base.
This is a giant knife wound to the head. And the person, you ever seen in Deadpool where someone sticks a knife in his head and he's walking around all dazed and confused? Now, that's the Globers. This is a giant knife in the head. And they've got a couple of choices. They can yank that knife out, and you're right, it might kill them. Yeah, it's devastating. Or they can leave the knife in and walk around in a dazed, confused mess. But that means you're going to have to converse with people that have got a giant knife wound that might die if they pull it out. Now, me, I'd just say, leave the knife. You didn't put it in there, did you? So just walk away from the knife wound. It's not your problem.
Yeah, so this is the way you approach it. I approach it differently. I approach it incrementally, but it's just me, and that's the point of view I'm coming from.
But it is them, people.
What do you mean?
How you're describing it is how you would have to approach the subject because of the person you're conversing with. So because they are a globe believer, because they are a normie, because they are already in a paradigm of a globe.
That's right.
I don't care.
Yeah. Of course, yes. It's because of them. Yes. Yes.
Just rip it like the Alabama tick. Yeah? The knife to the head, you just got to rip it out. If you're going to do it, that is. Me, I don't.
This is why everybody needs to go and sell something based on commission only. If you don't sell, you don't eat.
Let me give an example.
Hang on, I'm in the middle of
We're getting one from 10th. It seems non sequitur, but I'm sure it isn't.
So what QE said, hang on. First of all, I don't want Brian to say after I say what I'm going to say, he came up with it 2 weeks ago. Okay. So just get that out of the way. What QE said is that he's got the wrong target, which is correct. The audience is what QE is referencing to. So as a salesperson wanting to sell a particular product, if you're not in front of the right audience, you don't even have a chance to sell it because they don't need your product. Okay, so if you're in front of the wrong audience and they don't need your product, but you keep standing there, keep trying to convince them, you're just wasting your time. Especially when you're commission-based, because you're only going to get paid if you sell something. So the experience
but it's worse than that.
goes.
But it's worse than that. We're not talking about people that are just the wrong customer. I'm not knocking your analogy. I'm not just saying it. And plus, Brian did actually come up with this 2 weeks ago.
Rebel. In other words, hold on a second, Brian. So Rebel, in other words, 10th is saying you're starving and I'm a fat cat.
No.
Exactly.
No. Everyone stop. No.
Let me
Stop.
Let me round.
No. It's not that they're the wrong customer, right? So it's like trying to sell the birth control pill to a guy when it's female only, right? That's wrong customer, right? That isn't this. This is trying to sell birth control pills to the protesters outside the abortion clinic.
Fine. Either way, the point is, you got to figure out when you're talking to people how much time of your life you're going to invest if they don't even pass the first set of questions. If they don't pass the first set of questions, why am I hanging around?
Let me give the example I tried to give. This is my fourth time trying to give it, so it might be a bit dated. Right? It'll be fourth time, right? But I'll give it anyway. There's a 30-year aerospace engineer guy who has been having a thing with me on my channel, comments and that. Because he can't prove his other claims, 3 times he's after trying to start an argument about how rockets can work in a vacuum. And my response to him 3 times in the past 2 weeks or whatever, and has been, what vacuum? What response did I get back? Nothing. Cut it off at the knees.
Yes. Thank you, Brian.
So my point is, if you had to make a living at it, you would just know your desire questions and buying signs. And then you would just go off of that. So if I'm talking to someone, like if someone comes to me and says, I hear you're a flat earther, and I go, we all are. I just say it that way. I say, we all are. And they go, no, I'm not. I go, well, what are you then? And then I could just see where he's at. I said, well, look, if you want to sit down, and I pull out my wallet, I go, here's a $100 bill. You got one? I'll bet you. My 100 against your 100. You can't prove to me your claim of earther. If you prove it, you can have this $100. No one ever takes this offer up. Why am I wasting my time talking to these people? But when I do that, and there's someone in the audience, like his brother in this case, listening, hey, listen, what makes you so confident? Now that guy's seeking, he's looking, he's actually looking. Why are you so confident? So the audience guy gets it. The guy who wants to argue, well, because he's in cog this, he's just going to go in circles with you. So why waste time with him? Identify who he is. Audience sees what you did. Audience members either show interest or don't show interest. And then you spend the time with the ones who show interest.
Yeah, but there's the ones
Yeah,
that
I
show
don't
interest.
agree with that
Hold on.
approach at all.
I just want to reiterate my.
You would die in commission.
Hold on.
says.
I just want to reiterate my example. The people who show interest in pro-life, right? Let's say they're anti-birth control, just for my example working. Their interest in the subject is because they oppose it. You know, when you're driving past that person and go, oh, they might want to talk about the subject matter that I've got to sell. And you go up to them and go, are you interested in talking about birth control? And they go, absolutely, I'm protesting about it right now. I'll talk your ear off. Will you get a sale at the end? They're definitely interested.
No, I'm talking about real experiences I've had in a room full of people with a cognitive dissonant globe believer, but the audience who's afraid to get into.
I get your example.
Is listening.
I get your example. I'm just trying to compare it and contrast it to who Rebel is describing. Rebel's describing anti-flat earthers who he's encountered. I know where he hangs around. I know who he's talking about. Right? But you're saying you can carefully pick out the people who are giving off positive buying signals that might actually buy what you're selling. Now, selling isn't the transaction of a bet or a cash value. It's the product of flat earth and whether or not they will listen and comprehend. That's it. Not believe, not buy, but comprehend. Now, when Rebel talks about it, it's the protesters outside that have definitely got an interest in the subject. And I just want the audience to understand that, no, because someone will engage you and they, you know, maybe you ask them a semi-salesy question and they answer yes, they give you the positive ladder and you end up thinking, this is my customer. They're not, because they're anti your product.
No, I know what you're saying, but it's a little different in how I'm approaching it.
These
Meaning
analogies are fucking train wreck.
No, mine is a real example. A room full of people, a room full of people. This happened to me many times. All right, room full of people, and I encounter an anti-flat earther. Okay, I'm using him. I want to get the two. I want him to challenge me. I want him to call me a flirt. I want him to do it because then I just come back with my lines. The audience is possibly more anti-flat earthers as well as, you know, just normies. They're listening to two alphas going at each other. The audience is trying to figure out why I'm so confident and why this guy keeps losing on logic and reason. Okay. And then after the thing is done, which usually it subsides, people come and say, okay, I'm interested. What do you mean by that's the one? That's the audience member I wanted to get from the beginning, not the other ones. But I'm using them. I'm using the argument.
You have to ask yourself a question: why do people believe in this contrived heliocentric model to begin with? It's because of advertisement, right? Instead of going at people directly, what I would do in your place is I would target advertisement and pick out the falsehoods in an advertisement and debunk those in the first place. So when you debunk piece by piece, nothing in an advertisement slogans would be left to chew on as truth for the consumer, so they will be more inclined to hear what you say to begin with.
You just described what I do. You just described exactly what I do. I take apart the anti-flat earthers advertising, and the consumer, the audience is listening. No, I'm trying to tell you, it's the same thing.
Hold on, let's just let Rebel get to the end of his point. He was nearly there. Go ahead, Rebel.
What hacking?
Yeah, that's not what you're doing. You're saying that advertisement is bullshit because of a point that you're making, except the people holding on to myriads of points, among them retrofit, right? And so once you clear that away, not necessarily all of them, but at least make the case for the benefit of the doubt to make them to start even thinking of a concept that the advertisement might be false, because this guy had disproved, a tenth of it, a third of it, or half of it. Okay, now they're more inclined to listen to you, to listen to what you have to say. And retroreflectors happens to be one of the big points. Everybody I talk to eventually comes to retroreflectors. Well, we have this and that, right? Taking that away from them leads them to at least doubt, because this is just a straight up science. It's material science. It's all well known.
Not science at all.
I don't understand why you're missing what I'm saying.
Yeah. Don't go with the analogies anymore. Just all this is you're begging the question for them. That's all you're doing. Now, is that right or wrong? It's up to you. Me, just go with the big picture and destroy Narnia, and not the ping pong balls in Narnia. That's all it comes down to. We can end this.
Yeah, what Retro doesn't realize is the art of sales involves asking questions. And so when I ask the questions, I don't let them slip out of it till I get an answer. So they're either going to concede or they're going to debunk me. And so I stick to the housekeeping questions, and the audience member sees that the guy is just flailing in the ocean, drowning, because I just keep hitting them with it. And he's not conceding, and it's obvious he's going against logic and reason. So he looks stupid, not me. I'm just asking questions, but I control the conversation by asking questions. But what questions do I ask? The strong housekeeping questions. And so they're just flailing. And then someone says, hey, I want to ask you a question. And they walk up to me, and these are the ones that are possibly going to wake up because they saw the whole thing. And why are they coming to me? Because they just saw the guy drowning.
Yeah, but what I would say about what Rebel is saying, I would use what Rebel is saying with someone who's just a total normie. And what I mean by that, someone I know, someone I'm friends with or whatever, I would just say, well, that's a lot of nonsense even within your own model, and I'd show him what it was. But then I tell him or her, but there's a much easier and much bigger and better way to debunk all that. And then I point out, if I was going to do it, then I point out the fact that entropy exists and it can't be overcome.
When you say it, Brian, it sounds
too much
okay.
to swallow. That's too much to swallow.
When Rebel says it, it just sounds wrong.
Yeah, well, if we
terrible,
are on the
Nathan.
subject of analogies, right? If you telling somebody the chocolate they're eating is all 100% poison and unreal, they'll look at you like stupid, right? And they say, hey, no, I believe it's real and I'm eating it. It tastes yummy. But if you can prove definitively one of the hundreds of ingredients within that chocolate is straight up poison, now you get them to question. You know what I mean? Now you get them hooked.
But here's
That's the kind of approach that I'm taking.
Poison in Narnia.
Yeah, your poison is in Narnia. Thank you. Here's the deal. Commission sales. You only get paid if you sell your idea. You're spending time with a person who's not going to buy your idea. I'm spending time with the person who's going to buy my idea because he saw me spend time with a guy who wasn't and saw how bad he lost.
Okay. So in
I
summary,
get your point.
So in summary, this situation is a lot like being a chocolate salesman with a knife injury.
God. Stop it. You're terrible. Now you're milking it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're dealing with the customers you think are potential customers. I'm dealing with customers who I know not are customers, but I will convert them into being customers.
We get it. We get it. Thanks.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's about enough. How about what's his name and his feeble triangulation of celestial bodies? Did you all catch that? You kind of missed it.
In the Mortimer thing, maybe we did.
Yes.
Go on. What did we miss?
Yeah, he was triangulating celestial bodies. With his, of course, he needed that flat baseline. Obviously, you got him there. I mean, he's finished right there.
What did I miss?
Are you talking about the straw man?
Hold on. When he said it, I cut to 10th man's diagram and showed that when he was doing the triangulation and he had the 3 balls on screen, what he'd done is taken the point to the center of each of the balls, and then I brought up the equatorial plane and detailed it. What did I miss?
Yeah, but he wasn't talking about celestial navigation. He was triangulating a celestial body is what he was doing. Did you see 2 90-degree angles? He cut.
I
He
pointed
cut
out
the
when he said.
accessories.
Go
Go
on,
ahead, Adam.
Go
I
ahead,
thought you'd be all over this, but
I did. I pointed out that he wasn't doing celestial navigation. He was doing trigonometry.
you did.
You
So
did, and
Adam,
it
yep,
went
I take
straight over
everything
my
back.
head. Sorry.
I take everything back. I think Adam did. Yes.
Yeah, good
correct.
job you're here, Adam.
Yeah, because he wanted the height, actual distance, feet, and yardage to the stars when that's not celestial navigation.
It killed it anyway. It's not a big deal. I'm just,
It's
looking for-
negligible. It's negligible.
It's negligible.
Don't apologise. We're at the tip of the spear, man. Got to give us this sort of critique. Got to be very finely sharpened.
Well, it's hard because another thing that drives me nuts is you take the video off the screen immediately. When there's diagrams up there, people are trying to, if I'm trying to look more in depth into it, I know others are doing the same thing. Leave that thing. If you get a diagram up, leave that thing up there.
I only try and click across for a few seconds just long enough so the audience can see who's talking, because I've run out of screen real estate, so there's lots of things that are on top of each other. And when you're talking, I just want to put you on screen for a second or two. And then as soon as I recognise that you are detailing a specific diagram, I am normally pretty good at going, like Adam, he was like intense diagram, and then he starts explaining. I do try and go to Skype and bring it back up again. But it's just so that the audience knows who's talking. You as my panel are more important and valuable to me than the information you're presenting, because the information you're presenting comes from you. So your primary concern to me as your representative.
No, you lose context. No, I was struggling with it earlier. I'm like, bring the diagram up. And then you brought the wrong diagram up.
No, that's not a possibility.
Nathan,
go ahead.
No, that's all right. You were fine. If you go Master D, I put up 3 slides. It's from King's Dethroned. Huey's familiar with this, so is everyone else.
Okay, so I'll just hold on 1 second. I'll just move my element screen out of the way. I'll close down Master B, go back into Master B so the pages have gone down. I'll bring up the
just
picture.
Push buttons. I don't need to know which ones.
Obviously it's super easy, just for quantum
Well, I
eraser.
wasn't hurrying you. You have all the time in the world here.
Hey, Ken, he's being facetious, man.
I know he is. So am I. I'm playing it too.
Is this what you want, Mick West's curve calculator?
No. King's Dethroned. 3 slides. It's just the writing one.
King's Dethroned. Oh, at 1514.
When the world was young, you see it?
When the world was young, yeah, I got it on screen now.
Okay, well, we're going to go through this real quick. So the second part there says, the reader will perceive that to obtain any measurement by triangulation, it is absolutely necessary to have a baseline and to know its length exactly. It is evident also that the length of the baseline must bear a reasonable proportion to the dimensions of the triangle intended. That is to say, that the greater the distance of an object under observation, the longer the baseline should be in order to secure an accurate measurement. Then he goes on to talk about Hipparchus. Now, if you go to the next page, if you go to the middle part, such was the extraordinary conclusion arrived at by Hipparchus, that the statement of his lies at the root of astronomy and has led its advocates into an amazing series of blunders from that day to this. The whole future of the science of astronomy was affected by Hipparchus when he said, quote unquote, the heavenly bodies are infinitely distant. And now when I say that it is not so, the fate of astronomy again hangs in the balance. It is a momentous issue which will be decided in due course within these pages. Go to the last page. In the last paragraph, having accepted the theories of Hipparchus in bulk, it was but natural that Ptolemy should fail to discover the error I have pointed out. Though even had it been otherwise, it would have been difficult for him to make triangulation to the stars in the 2nd century AD, as has been the inventor of triangulation himself 300 years earlier. However, it is a fact that he allowed the theory that the heavenly bodies are infinitely distant, quote unquote, to remain unquestioned. And that was an error of omission, which was ultimately to bring about the downfall of his own Ptolemaic system of astronomy.
Well, it comes down to two things. One is they're admitting that you must have a baseline that has to correspond to the actual triangle that it's a part of. You know what I mean? Not like the ballers were saying at one time, oh, you could just get a horizontal at just where you stand, and you don't need that. It doesn't need to only be a couple of feet long, one of them told me. You know, this kind of rubbish. No, it has to span the whole length horizontally between you and the GP point of the celestial body. But the second thing is that, I'm not to forget now, but the second thing is that, what is it? Oh yeah, the height of the celestial body, trying to triangulate them, right? What is an angular height to a celestial body? It is a perspective height, just like, even though it's not the same because you don't use the height with the celestial body, but even if you do with a building, the angular height of a building is not its actual height. It's a perspective height. It's angular heights above baseline are perspective heights. So is perspective a measurement or is it an effect? That's what you're using. You're using the effect of perspective. That's what you're using. But when it comes to celestial bodies, you don't do that. You just use the angular height and you subtract from 90 and to get the distance, the horizontal distance, by 60 to the GP point.
On the Earth.
Yeah,
you're not getting the distance to the celestial body. Let's have Mortimer on his next show do his little triangulation on Polaris. I'll give him the baseline. Let's see what he gets.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, gifting memberships, hitting the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!